Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazin' Bob, and today I am joined by Ryan, aka Cognitive Pit. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm good, Bob. Thanks. Sorry, that's my Mel impression. That's how. oh,
Excuse me?
I'm good.
That was actually really good. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I see. I see how it is
And
now.
Mel, how are you doing? Maybe you can give us your Cognitive Pit.
Hmm. I'm good, guys.
That was
Yeah, I
horrible.
guess.
That was
I
I
guess
horrible.
think
I
that was
would say
I think that
that.
was right on.
It was be more like, I'm doing fantastic, Bob. Thanks for asking.
I'm too
Oh,
sleepy for that. She's got the energy correct.
right? I
Oh
was like, well, I
man.
don't have the energy for that, so
Well, and we are also joined by a brand new guest of the show. You may have heard him on Countdown to Crusade with Josh Corbett. It is the one and only Naismith. How you doing, sir?
Hey, thanks. I'm really glad to be here. I'm doing pretty well today. So this is
Awesome.
exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, it's exciting for us. We've been looking for someone to talk about loot systems for a while now, and I'm hoping to learn along with the audience. So I'm pretty excited. We also found out that me and Naismith and Mel for a short time went to the same college. We found that out. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yep.
Proud alumni of the University of Kansas.
Yep. KU Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Kind of
So
crazy. I feel like every guest we have some sort of like
connection.
strange happenstance connection
yeah,
with.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Well,
Melderon went to K State, and Melissa spent the majority of her time at K State, and then Melderon and Def Camp both live just like
So in my small town, like
yeah,
in a tiny town, like it's a suburb, but that of like a lot of Philadelphia. So it's a city that's like it's a city, but like we live in the exact town
wow.
down the street from each other. It's kind of crazy.
it
Yeah.
is crazy. All right, so we're gonna get into the show. We got a little bit of housekeeping. We got some spicy news, and then at the end of the show, we're gonna go over the different loot systems and talk to Naismith about that. So first off, I want to let everybody know we're trying to grow the YouTube at Mash Those Buttons, youtube.com/mash those buttons. We're trying to grow that, and we need your help. So we decided, what's the best way to get people to help? A giveaway. So what we're going to do is we are going to give away a $25 Blizzard Balance gift like gift card. So basically it's going to be two competitions, each 4 weeks long. All you have to do, you can get 4 entries per competition in the drawing. All you have to do is you have to go to our episode for that week on YouTube. You have to make sure you're subscribed. You have to like the video, and you have to leave a comment. Comment whatever you want. I don't care, but just leave a comment. That'll give you 1 entry. At the
Like Yip sounds nothing like Mel. You can leave that comment. You'll get
yes.
2 entries.
So, and that'll give you 1 entry. At the end, you'll have 4 entries. We will, on that 5th episode, the next episode, we will do a live like drawing where we use random.org and you see it on stream. We'll do that at the end of the episode to show who the winner is, and it should be a good time and should help us get more eyes on us on YouTube, and we will appreciate your help. So, with that being out of the way, we did get a new and also old review. It was a review on iTunes from another country, but we didn't find that review because finding reviews from different countries is really hard. So sorry we missed that review, but Yip, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So this is a review that is on Warcraft Radio from Nathan. I had already submitted a review on Apple Podcasts long ago, but hasn't been read. That is because we can't find those other country ones sometimes. I've been hearing the podcast since the first episode from Spain. In my opinion, it is the best one out there. Yikes. Thank you. um, it's the best one out there. I personally love all of you. The way you speak about WoW is amazing, and I can feel the love you all have for the game. Mel and Yip are the perfect companions for Bob. Love the humor you guys bring to the podcast. I've been Alliance all of my game cycle life and really excited about coming back to TBC Classic. Haven't played much Classic as much, but was there for the first month or so, and the experience was amazing. Planning on getting back to the game this month, even though I am way behind. Thanks for entertaining my journeys during work. Keep up the good work, guys. Love this for the Alliance. Thank you,
Yes.
Nathan. That's a great review. I think that it's a perfect time to get into Classic, though. I think a lot of people who are excited about TBC are coming back into Classic. I think in the next couple months, especially once pre-patch hits, there's going to be a lot of people leveling. A lot of people who are going to be wanting to run dungeons for a couple pieces of Prebis. They're going to be a lot more pugs for like Molten Core and BWL coming out. I think people who want to get some pieces of gear. I think that when period patch hits, PvP is gonna like light up. You're gonna be able to go PvP with people a ton to try to get your Grand Marshal gear and things like that. So now's a great time to get back into the game, I think. And welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much for the review. Super cool. We appreciate being called the best, but I will never say that. So, oh man. So
It always worries me when people say that we're like their resource for WoW Classic news. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of pressure.
okay. Well, I mean, to be fair though, we do cover the news well. Like we do cover the news.
I hear Bob
mean-
waits until we have a guest on to bring out anytime there's a review that says we're the best podcast. He holds them to the side and he's like, by the way, this guy thinks we're the best podcast.
Oh,
I,
What do you,
the best
well,
is.
Nathan,
I
what do you say about
wholeheartedly
that?
agree. I wholeheartedly agree. You guys are wonderful.
Oh my gosh.
The best was the time we had Salve Deli
Yep.
on and we read this review and he was like, thank God you're not like all those hardcore sweaty guilds or something. And we were like, oh
It was
God.
like, yeah, I like listening to you because you guys aren't like Onslaught. Those guys, it's like, oh, uh-oh.
Oh man, it was bad. But Dally's a super chill guy, so he didn't care. Oh, so what have you guys been doing in WoW lately? Anybody
Well,
better?
Yip let me bring my druid to ZG. And I asked him, given my druid is definitely not geared. And he's like, yeah, I guess. We don't have any priests though. And I was like, it's fine. And we get there, literally my druid runs out of mana in like 10 seconds. Like
Yeah.
I just don't know how to play the druid and I have no gear, so that's fun. But
Yeah,
I've gotten some good gear.
I wasn't concerned about your druid being bad. I just wanted power word fort. Like I just wanted fort. Luckily, I think we brought like a shadow priest, and he just had a fort everybody. I think that's what we ended up
There you
doing.
go.
That worked out fine.
Oh man, yeah, that was good. We have been getting some pretty good ZG gear for my lock and for her druid, which has definitely been nice. And I'm so
And then I
confused
had
on
to
the
go.
lock.
Yeah, then I had to go to the ZG Island to turn in my like ZG shoulders or something, which was an experience all in itself. And I just remember like I get to the guy and I like click on the turn in guy. There's like 3 hordes standing around me and I'm like, "Ugh," and they're just like leaving me alone, but I know it won't last. I know it's coming to an end very shortly. So I'm trying to click as fast as I can and nope, I had to go back, res, click again. So I had to get like all the recipes and all that stuff. It was such a pain.
The real danger move is you go to the island. So if anyone doesn't know, Whitemane is 90% of the time owned by Horde. So for Alliance,
Yes.
it's very difficult to get in there. I think that my biggest power move is you die there. You can get the ZG heart buff as a ghost. So
Oh
I'll
yeah.
camp at the island dead on top of the Zanza guy. As soon as the heart comes out, everyone else is like hearthing or portaling. Like all the Horde are busy with their heart. That's when you can get your Zanza, pop it, grab another Zanza, and start hearthing. And sometimes you can get away with it, and you end up
It's
okay.
too
And then other
risky.
times, yeah, other times you lose out on your heart, and your whole day is ruined. But
Yeah, I
See,
basically.
I always stand behind the guy that you like the building that you break the Zanzas in. That way, when I get the heart dead, I can swim underneath as far as I can until I get out of range of my res. Then I res and I hearth underwater.
Yeah, but I don't think the second Zanza's worth the risk there, so I'd do the dead thing too. Or if I happen to get other buffs first, then I just fly to Booty Bay and just do the Booty Bay wait. But we've
Yep,
been doing
I
a
remember.
ton.
Go ahead,
Your
Nathan.
your guys' experience is completely different than mine. I'm a horde. I did
Mhm.
not realize I was going to be on a podcast with Alliance players. I'm feeling a
Yeah.
little judged right now.
We
Well-
exclusively have Horde on to ridicule them and yell at them.
Yeah,
Pay
only
for the sins of your friends.
you're only being judged by Yip. Mel and I were Horde, TBC, and Wrath. We were Alliance in Vanilla, but we were Horde
not
the
true.
majority of the time.
That's not true, though. I judge you after phase 2. I can never forgive.
Oh god,
Never
phase
yeah.
2 on
We need a
Phase-
shirt that says Phase 2, never forget.
Phase 2 was so toxic on my server. I'm on Stalag. It's kind of an infamous server because it is 100% horde right now. It is a de
Mhm.
facto PvE server just because there are no alliance. The only alliance players are from this really toxic guild that has bought 60 rogues and 60 priests just so they can dispel and fuck with people.
See,
It's
I always think it's really funny to hear because people from Scarum also call the like rogues and priests like toxic, or they'll say they're griefing. But on a PvP server, we just do it to each other. Like that is what PvP has become, is just ruining each other's days when it comes to world buffs. It really is like all that PvP servers are about. Like every Tuesday, Thursday, it's like all 40 people are like, how do I save my buffs? Like, where are the portals? When are the summons? Are there any priests or rogues in Stormwind? It's like that endlessly. We're 50-50. It is still it's absolute mayhem.
Yeah.
that sounds
Definitely.
more exciting, but so much more stressful.
Yes.
Like,
It sounds exciting until you like log into the inn and forgot you're at the inn, and there's just like a priest who's suicide running and dispels you, and it's just like, okay, like it's like
That
you're just
shouldn't
standing there
happen.
like, guess I'm going back. The only nice thing is a lot of the Dire Maul tribute buff sellers will give you a discount or free buffs if you get summoned back from dispelling. So like there is buy
How do
two
you
get
know
one
that,
free.
Yip?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Dude,
a
I was
sad
on the other day, and I think Karen lost like full world buffs like twice
No,
in like
Oh,
one night.
7
Jesus.
times.
Oh my god.
Not
Now-
full world buffs. He just kept trying to get buffs and would lose. He'd die like with 2 of them or with 1 of them.
I love our entire guild, but if you're losing world buffs at this point, or you lose world buffs every week, it's time for some introspection, okay? Like, it's time to start looking at what you're doing. Like, if you're losing world buffs before patchwork every week, this maybe there's something you need to think about doing
Because our healers
differently.
suck.
So do you guys have to deal with, like, what's Songflower like for you guys?
Oh, it's a war zone. So what typically happens is if you want a reliable Songflower, you can get summoned there. So some people will clear it out and they'll summon people and sell the Songflower. But if you're just out there getting it, you don't know what's going to happen. You might just be able to get it. There's one that's right at the Alliance flight point, making it pretty safe and easy to get Songflower. But sometimes it'll just be like 10 Horde will roll through, or you'll have to fight like crazy for it. So normally people are getting it first, and then they go do everything else. So we only bring like 40 minutes of Songflower into any given raid.
Oh, geez. Yeah, Songflower's the most dangerous on my server. That's where
Yeah.
you're going to get dispelled the most, and there are usually packs of rogues, so you just have to be very careful.
Yeah, for us, I would say that it's not like particular. I mean, it's dangerous, but I think the scarier thing is just getting dispelled or killed in town. So like when we were flying out instead of summoning, it's common to fly from Ironforge up to like Light's Hope. So sometimes there'd just be two rogues sitting either in the portal room for Ironforge, which never has like any alliance around to help defend with you,
Right.
or they'll just sit at the flight path. And this happened to a couple of us before. Well, as the guild is flying out, they'll sap people, and the whole guild flies out, and then like 1 or 2 people are
Oh,
sapped
it's the
left behind.
worst.
and then
Oh.
murdered. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it is.
they find creative ways, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
even these 99 horde servers, like everyone gets griefed apparently. It's just endless, I think.
Oh
yeah,
man.
they'll find a way.
Well, Naismith, what have you been doing?
Mainly leveling the warlock I plan to play, and like doing some profession prep because I don't want to have to spend too much on spell cloth and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been
I've
doing.
been leveling. No,
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I'll let you go after this, and then you can take us right into just like a little update on Nax. I've been doing a ton of prep. I mean, I've been playing like the majority of my time. It's like when Classic WoW first came out, those first few months, like I'm just like constantly doing things, constantly researching what I should be hoarding, what I should be saving. I've got alts with banks full of all kinds of crap. Like I mean, it's just nuts. And I've been PvPing with the Warlock, and oh my god, after spending WoW Classic as a warrior and oftentimes PvPing in Fury spec. Don't at me. But playing as a warlock in like Soul Link spec is unfreaking real. Like I'm sitting here defending a flag with my, shady-ish gear against 2 and 3 people. And not dying for a long time. It's been so much fun. I've been having a blast with it. But that's what I've been doing. All right. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I've just been
So
leveling
what
my
I've been
paladin.
doing is I'm just kidding.
I've just been leveling my paladin. I've been having a blast. Like it's been a lot of fun. I'm just grinding to 60 on my paladin, and paladin's perfect for it because you just auto attack. You can like go get a drink. You can you can get up, do
You've
whatever,
been
watch a
doing it as
video.
prot.
No, I'm doing it as ret. I'm just going around swinging my two-hander. I'm not like AoE grinding or anything like that. I'm just grinding mobs one at a time, making videos of it. I'm making bank. I think I hit 200. I probably made 250 gold hitting like level 23, which is pretty decent. Um I mean, the gold per obviously, like, it's not if you compare it to, like, a GDKP or you compare it to, like, some other way to make gold that isn't grinding, it's not gonna add up, it's not gonna make sense. I know, like, Kim was ragging on me because he just sits at the auction house all day making thousands of gold. That's fine.
Yeah,
People like to do that. I like to grind gold. I
people
wanna
like to
kill a
do that.
mob with my character. I wanna buy a new sword and then go I was using the Searing Blade, it's like a level 18 rare, and it has a proc to like launch a fireball, and I was just having fun. It was like reigniting classic for me because I was just out there in the world. I get a cool new sword. I'm throwing fireballs as a paladin, and I'm having fun. It's a really good time.
Yip is old school.
I like grinding. What can I say? It's fun. I mean, I'm excited for TBC. Hopefully, there's some good grinding there. I'm excited to grind for my Talbuck in in Nagran. They got the you just kill ogres for like 4 or 5 hours to get your Talbucks.
Oh my
I'm gonna be
god.
doing that.
You have so many like reputations you can grind in TBC too.
Yeah, you've got
So
reputations. It's gonna be good. It's like right up my alley.
All right. Well,
That's all I.
why don't you give a quick overview of Nax? We almost one nighted it. We had
Yeah, Nax is
3
easy.
first phases. 3
Nax
new
is
first phases.
Yeah. So we went on Tuesday, normal day. We've been summoning, which has been with mixed results. A couple of us get dispelled or die on the way in still after the summon.
I'm just saying,
Uh,
I'm 100. I've made it in with
Same.
everything every week so far.
This is what I mean. I've seen some people complain about their world buffs, but I've also seen them just jump off of the side into horde, and they're like, "I'm dying! Oh darn it!" And it's just like, come on,
And
you gotta.
Come on.
we've given them many ways to not die, and nobody seems to do it. So I'm just gonna stop talking, I guess.
Yeah, so we did lose a few world buffs going in on Tuesday, which is kind of a downer. But we were just pumping on Tuesday. We've cut down on the amount of healers we have, not really on purpose, but we, we went from like 14 to 15 healers down to like 12 healers, and 12 healers and a shadow priest. The shadow priest occasionally will heal, but. Now we were just pumping. We were doing so much damage. We didn't get a decimate on Glyph, which we normally do like we normally kill them as it comes out, so we all end up like 1 health
Right.
right as we kill
Oh,
it, which
you're
is kind of a
right. It
bummer.
was 4 bosses that we first phased this week.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. We'll see if we have the same count. I'm gonna have to figure that one out. But yeah, so we go through that. Everything was really strong there. We go to Plague next. I want to go to Military second, so we can for sure kill 4 horsemen on Tuesday. But we're going to Plague next. We killed Noth. Was Noth one that we won phase?
Yep. Noth
Yeah, so we killed
did
Noth
not
before
teleport out.
Yeah, we normally the problem is too, we don't exactly try very hard to do these 1 phases either typically. Like we're not like
Yeah.
full on like, oh, ignore the ad spawns. And recently we've been doing it a little bit more. And we just kind of we just cleaved the ad spawns down and we killed Noth in the first phase, which was good. Hygen was almost first phased. He did teleport, but he had like 1% health and then died right away, which was nice.
Yeah, I guess
we
that
killed
wasn't a
Lothar.
We
full.
didn't have to do the dance.
We didn't have to do the dance, which was nice. We're
So.
finally there, guys. We've made it. Although we've been getting pretty good at it. We're getting pretty good at the dance.
Practice
I mean,
makes perfect. Yep.
I think
We're
people are
still-
realizing if
We're
you're
still
behind, you have to
really
catch up.
bad. We're still really bad at the people he teleports into the abyss.
Yeah, but we're just killing it so fast now that less people are going in there
Yeah,
and dying.
right.
So it works out.
We just wait for 2 groups. If you stay back there, 2 groups run together. It's easy.
Hmm.
We should have thought of that because we talked to
Yeah.
Melder on DefCam and they said that they just take their hands off their keyboard, I think,
Yeah.
and then they just kill Hygen, and then it's
Like-
over. But waiting for 2 groups actually makes way more sense because you're still
Yeah.
going through. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that Tuesday. So thank you.
There you go.
That'll be our next strat that we employ.
Happy to help.
So we go to
we're not
military.
we're gonna kill him with only one group, and they're just gonna be sitting back there waiting.
Sorry, we don't go to
blown,
military
though, on
next. We
that
go to
one.
Spider.
Yeah. We went to Spider and a Nubricon.
Yeah, we won phase of Nubricon.
Before
Which
Swarm.
I don't want to admit this. Our guild has like no problem admitting this. Whenever we'll have like a new recruit, and then everyone will start talking about how bad we are at a Nubricon, and I'm like, stop, saying that we're bad at a Nubricon, please. We've probably wiped to a Nubricon more than any other boss in
No.
there. To be honest
Really?
with you, it's just like
No,
it always
Instructor
happens.
Instructor Vesuvius. We don't wipe, we reset, but still.
Yeah, we've only.
Makes sense.
But, I mean, yeah, but that's not really like. I don't know. When that's
Just
really like
stupid
on
stuff
2
happens
people.
with the Nubricon, right? Stupid stuff happens with the Nubricon where like everybody is in the same position and gets thrown up into the air, and then there's all these ads and stuff like.
We're a strong 2-hour guild. That's what we've come to realize. For the first 2 hours of raid, we're like the best players on the server. 2 hours hits, and all of a sudden everyone's like, "I'm ready for bed." Like,
Yep.
Locust
Yeah.
Swarm. What's that? I don't know.
My
and-
guild had so much trouble with Makesna. Like we could not stop DPSing, like, and then we would get an enrage midway through, like a stun. Like we did that at least 6 or 7 times. Like it was bad.
That's what
Yeah,
happened
we
to us
have
this
our-
week too. We pumped a
Well,
little
yeah,
too hard.
so yeah, we kill Faralina after, and then we actually did good on the Faralina trash for once. I actually felt like it went
I know, right?
decently enough that I didn't hate it entirely. But we end up on Maxna, and again, we're in our heads. We're going really, really fast at this point, and we're thinking that okay, this is our chance to rebuff after or right before Gothic. I think was the plan, and then we're gonna come and finish the whole thing in one night. Wipe on Maxna, baby. Oh yeah. Big spider
Oh,
kills us
man.
all.
Twice, right?
Maybe. No, I think
Twice.
just
No,
Yes,
that was just
we
twice.
wiped-
Was it
We
twice?
wiped twice.
Wow.
it was definitely just it was once.
No, I thought it was once.
it was once.
Okay.
Because the reason we wiped is because we pushed the enrage too early.
Oh,
But
yeah,
normally we have our tank with shield wall ready to go, and then he just like shield walls during the enrage.
Yeah, you're
But we
thinking
just,
of
like-
Vesuvius.
Yeah, he just wasn't he just didn't hit shield wall, and then he died, and then we wiped. So that was rough. Was it a really close wipe also? It had like 10,000 health left.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we coulda
and
killed
there was
it.
like only healers up. in
Yeah.
Corpse, I think.
Oh,
Corpse had been battle
jeez.
res like twice. And
Yeah. So that was like that sort of was just like, okay, we're not gonna do the whole thing tonight. We're just gonna we're just gonna stop. I think our stopping point is just after Gothic and we go do ZG. But
after we wipe once though, our guild just goes like and it's
Oh,
yeah.
just like the attention span is just gone.
oh, the second world buffs are gone, our energy plummets. Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's just oh god damn it. Like
You
we
you said
Yeah.
like we've second world buffed once.
No,
No,
he means the
he said
second.
when this
The
Oh,
world
the
moment
buffs
in
are
time.
second that
gone.
they
the
dropped. Gotcha.
the second yeah.
the,
I was like,
the third time we world buff. So we go over to military. We're having issues. Resuvius never caused us problems before, and now we're just having all these like really silly Resuvius issues where he's either not aligned properly, or this has happened 2 weeks in a row. A paladin, and I think they have to be in the priest group, is for some reason putting shadow resist aura on, and then it's allowing the mind control target to heartbreak beat break the MC like way more often. So they'll
Yeah,
just break because they have innate shadow res
and
now.
people claim that this isn't a thing, but we've seen it. I mean, like we've
It's happened to
seen
us
the
2 weeks in a
heartbeat. Yeah,
row.
we've
like,
seen the
yeah.
heartbeat break. So, I mean, maybe I can't prove it on paper, but I'm pretty sure that it is a thing.
No, we watched. I mean, we absolutely watched it happen 2 weeks in a row now, where Shadow Res Aura has specifically caused the mind control to break early, and it breaks really early, and it'll break again and again. So that has been an issue for some reason.
We've also
Paladins
had a
don't even
couple
use.
new priests doing the mind control too.
Yeah, yeah. We also have the new priest doing the mind control, but like it's like our old priest that like was having trouble with the positioning
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it is
Yeah,
we're
it
having
was
some.
hilarious. We had a new priest doing the mind control, and everybody was kind of blaming him, but it turned out to be the old priest that was actually screwing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, we blamed him twice, and the first was the paladin's fault, and the second one was the original priest's fault. And we were like,
It was his
sorry.
first night. His first night with us. I was like, oh my god, I'm sure he feels like crap. And it wasn't
Yeah.
even him.
The nice thing is about our guild, like we wouldn't care. Like if he was messing up that much, no one really cares that much. Like you might
Yeah.
you're gonna feel bad yourself, like, oh my god, like I can't believe that this happened, but
Yeah, but
like
we
none
weren't
of us are
ragging
gonna
on him.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do eventually get him down, and we go through Gothic like normal, and then that was all we did Tuesday. And then on Thursday, we go in, we kill 4 horsemen. We had a weird issue on 4 horsemen. I'm not actually sure what happened because I thought our Thane kill was actually pretty quickly. I think people were just taking their time, either running to the safe zone or over to Mograine. And we had like 7 DPS just die to the 5th mark coming out of Thane. But like plenty of people were already over killing Mograine when it happened. So I'm not really sure what happened there. I think maybe some DPS were just slow going
Yeah,
and just ate that 5th mark.
I wasn't sure about that because when I got to the safe space after tanking Lady B, I was just like, huh, there's a whole bunch of dead people right there. That's
Yeah,
right
you can see him like running
right in
across
the
the
middle.
Mograine
Yeah.
dead. Yeah. So I was really worried about that. But we ended up having a super clean 4 horsemen despite a few DPS dying, which bodes well. The more I kind of like when we make mistakes and then the fight still goes well, gives me hope. It's like, oh, I guess we're like if we can do it 7 DPS down now. Like, all right, we're pretty good. Like, um, so that ends up going fine, but I was super worried about Saffron because normally we have like 14 healers and we have like 7 priests we're bringing, and we really try to like amp up how much healing we're doing. We had 12 healers with 4 priests, which is not very good for us. I was really worried. So we had our shadow priest do some healing, and we ended up doing Saffron no problem as well too. Like we had some deaths. We had a
I
couple people
died
die,
for
but
the first Saf kill I've ever died on. I died this week.
was it
It was
your
a
fault?
bummer. Yeah, but kind of like it was one of those double ticks of Blizzard, and I just couldn't get out. So it was,
Oh, he died to Blizzard.
yeah, it was kind of
Yeah.
my fault, but like I was moving immediately. You can watch my stream. You can see the VOD if you want to.
I died because I was just like my toe was poking out of the ice block when you're hiding behind the ice block, I
Again?
swear. Like
Dude,
my
I
little toe
swear
would
you
stick
have
out.
like size
Yeah,
15 feet.
This keeps happening to you, so I'm gonna say
Okay,
I'm
this is
gonna
the
start.
second time. This is like the first time I ever did SAF it happened, and it hasn't happened since. So forget you. Don't act like this is a reoccurring issue. But
I'm-
what I do want to say is that I had a soul stone. So I used my soul stone, and then it was just hell. Okay. Because I used my soul stone and I have like very little mana. So I take a mana pot, and then I realize I don't have my frost resist pot on. So I'm just literally healing myself for
Yep.
like 30 seconds, and I'm like, this is freaking worthless. Why did I res to heal myself? Like, what's happening right now? But I made
Yeah,
it.
we had a
Worked
couple
Were
out.
of
you in my
healers
group?
die.
No, I was in an all range group this
Bob
time.
looking for a reason it's not his fault. He
Yeah,
died to
right?
Blizzard.
I
Like,
I specifically didn't even look at the priest that I had in my
You
group
might
because
not
I
have even
didn't want
had
to
one.
think that. Oh,
yeah,
I
you might not have had
have.
one.
Maybe
Yeah,
that might have been
we're
the
running,
thing.
but we still killed Saffron, so it didn't matter
Woo!
that we had so few healers. I paid way too much DKP for a stupid, horrible block trinket. Someone bid me up for some reason. I want to use it in TBC, and for some reason, someone's bidding on a block trinket all of a sudden. Which is we rolled it off last time it dropped, by the way.
How much did you
And
spend on it?
6. I spent
Okay,
half a
that's
night's.
not
Well,
bad.
I spent an entire night's
I'm
DKP.
sure it was tank prio, so
No, we don't do that anymore. We actually don't tank prio anything, I don't think. So then we kill KT, and now I was really worried because I was like, okay, we lost a few people, like 5 or 6 DPS on 4 Horsemen. We lost healers and a couple more DPS on Saffron, and I was like, this time we're not getting KT down. Like we're just not gonna do it. KT ends up only doing, what is it, ice block. He does a attack. He only does that one time the entire
yeah.
fight.
I think only like
Only one time.
3 or 4 people died. Like I've died every KT kill we've done, sometime around 20%. And this is the first time I survived and I didn't have world buffs.
This is
Well, like
also a
we're all
reoccurring
waiting
problem.
for mechanics to happen. He's just being tanked in the middle. No one's like getting hurt because that mechanic is like one of the hardest ones. I end up tanking the 2 of a Nuber Khan. I'm just watching and everything's going fine. We don't have any horrible mind controls, and we just kill him. And that was it. It was the easiest.
Yeah, it was
kind of
Best is when-
anticlimactic.
The best is when I get mind controlled and I just start mana burning people. I'm like, somebody sheep me. You're losing all your mana.
That's awesome. I just kill healers when I'm mind controlled and no one does anything. I just
I
two-shot
see
healers.
this ginormous yip like wailing over towards me. I'm like, no.
It's kind of funny. Like there's something enjoyable about having no control
true.
over your character and watching yourself like just murder your raid. You're just like, someone sheep me, someone fear me.
This is fun.
I'm coming for you. So Nax was good. Like we're getting pretty good at Nax. Like it's honestly we're at the point where it's just not a problem anymore. Like things can go pretty wrong and we're getting Nax down. So yeah, I mean I would now consider, I think we just got Nax like a fully on farm. We're just never gonna have a problem in Nax again unless we start having like a mass exodus. Which, considering the amount of people who want to play TVC with us, I just don't think we're gonna see like 10 people drop off in a week or anything like that. Everyone is like awkwardly like, well, if I stop running Nax, I'm not gonna get a TVC raid slot probably. Like you have all these things to consider
True
now.
story.
Oh man. All right. Well,
We should ask Naismith, anything fun or exciting happened in Nax with you guys this week?
yeah, good call.
No, not even good gear dropped. Like it's like Nax is mechanically it's so much more interesting than any other raid and classic, but it is a slog to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to like pay attention and stuff. Like it's not just like you can't just tune out. With BWL and like AQ, it's like, tonight's just one of those nights. Let's just chill out and go through the raid. Nax is always like, all right, we got
Dude,
this boss, this boss.
BWL and MC, I could like 96 parse while hammered and barely able to see straight, you know?
Yeah, I miss all the tank and spanks. What can I say?
All right, well, let's move into the news. So big news hit this week. The internal alpha build has been discovered. The alpha is up. People are comparing it to the classic WoW alpha, whereas in the beta started a month later, and then they're using the math from the WoW Classic beta to assume that we're going to get TBC in July or April, but I'm of the opinion that I
Wait,
don't think
July or April? Those are
July
like,
or August. Sorry. Thank you.
it's like
Yeah.
very different.
So I'm of the opinion that they don't have to test, as I know we talk about there's so much more to do in TBC, but it's actually a smaller game than vanilla WoW. So I just don't think they have to test as much. They also have the original builds where, as in Classic, they were rebuilding a lot of things. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this means an August release, or do you think that you think the beta is going to be a little shorter?
Yeah, I don't think the beta will be very long. I think it'll be like 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
How long do you think it'll be?
Well, I mean, the last one was 3 months, right?
3 months?
Yeah. So I mean, like,
Okay,
I
maybe a
was
month
thinking a
then.
month
That
and a
was in
half or
pieces,
something,
though.
or a month.
So
that
here's the
was
thing. This is like so different because 1 to 30 is longer than 60 to 70 took. So when you look at how long the beta is compared to the amount of content that needs to be completed, they're pretty different. So the beta for TBC, they're not going to have the beta is not going to be for raids, right? They're not going to let us into raids probably. Maybe they will. But at most the beta experience is leveling 60 to 70, which will take like a week maybe on beta, and then you have a few more weeks of beta to hang out. I don't really know what they'll be testing exactly, but I can't imagine there's going to be that much involved. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was a month long at most. I
And
don't want more than that either.
yeah, I mean, I'm
I
kind
can't
of with you, but what do you think, Naismith?
I can't see it being longer than a month. Like there's not enough to test. As
Yeah.
you guys have said, like the most I can see them doing is maybe tuning heroic difficulty of like some dungeons, because that might be something they want to take a look at, because I know those were nerfed and buffed several times throughout TBC. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they want to do with that. But that is not something that will take an extraordinary amount of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a good point. They talked about they want pre-nerf raid bosses, but they didn't talk about pre-nerf heroics. And I think a lot of people I know there's a lot of people in our guild that want the harder heroics because it's just more fun. And phase 1 is going to be kind of boring if it's just like Kara, the two 25 mans, and then what you're going through like super easy heroics every day. I'd rather have like some challenge for the first couple weeks, I think, personally, to keep phase 1 interesting. So I hope they're testing whether or not they want heroics to be harder or easier, and they kind of come to that decision on
Well,
their own, I suppose. But
think of
I
the
want hard.
difference too. If they have harder like dungeons and not harder heroics, you're gonna go through heroics thinking like, oh great, and then you're gonna get to dungeons and be like, whoa,
I mean, yeah, raids, yeah, coming into
Yep.
or
raid.
raids, yeah.
Yeah, some of the yeah, I think people aren't prepared for how much damage like tanks are going to be taking, I think, on certain boss fights, but
Well,
it'll be
hey,
interesting to see.
going deep prot is actually going to help a tank. Like once we
Yeah.
get to TBC, so
I'm so
that's going to
excited.
be
Yeah. I'm
that's going
I'm
to
going
be
to be
interesting.
that yeah, I'm going to get to move my stupid fury prot and actually wear a shield, and
Ah,
I'll have defensive talents and defensive gear on. I'm really excited to
Well,
it's like
and
my class fantasy doesn't line up anymore because of what I'm doing in classic.
well, and it's funny that you say that because when Classic was starting out and I heard about this dual wield tank, I thought, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And then you find out it's really only cool for raids if you're like the main tank, because dungeons are way more fun if you're like 5-man dungeons are way more fun if you're deep prot and actually easier. And even PvP is is like more fun. Basically, Fury prot is just like crap for everything else except for raid taking.
The only thing I would say is that they're Prot and Fury are both not good for 5-man dungeons. You should just be arms. Like, there's no reason to tank a 5-man dungeon. So being deep Prot, like, if 5-man dungeons were extraordinarily hard, maybe deep Prot would be a little bit better. Like, it's nice having that long stun and stuff. But the
Yeah.
Prot talents really do
I mean,
suck.
true.
Like, the Prot talents just suck in Classic. That's like the main reason you don't need to go deep Prot. Is because what do you need to go to deep Prot for?
You
There's just
you get no mitigation. Like
yeah. There's
once
no
you're like for going deep prot, so you might as well just have some DPS talents to do more threat.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
honestly, in 5-man dungeons, like it's better just to be a Fury DPS wearing
Right.
some tank gear, basically.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a little weird, but it will be. I think deep Prot is gonna be it's gonna be good. Bosses are gonna be doing a lot of damage. You're gonna need mitigation, and then deep Prot is gonna have access to devastate, and like you're gonna be shield bashing and things like that. So it'll be really fun. But all that stuff still, even in a beta, I don't. Is that like what they're gonna be tuning and testing, or are they really just gonna be testing like server sizes and things like that? Because
I
they
have no
weren't
idea.
doing any balancing in the original beta for Classic because it only went up to level 40. So they weren't doing any actual balancing or anything like that. So I'm not really sure what the beta accomplishes. I didn't realize that there was going to be like this alpha period again. I was hoping maybe there was like already working on internal alpha stuff,
I
and
was
Right.
I
too.
would prefer them to just skip the beta at this point.
Yeah,
If
well,
they're
I don't know what they're gonna
Yeah.
test, but I should be in the beta, so I'll be able to report back to you later.
Yeah, I just think that like I don't particularly care other than maybe like trying out what my gear is going to be like and like how dungeon grinding is going to work for our leveling plan. Other than that, there's not much I don't want to go from 60 to 70 and then a month later or 2 months later just have to do it again for the real game. I'm not trying to like burn myself out on TBC before it comes out, and I'm just not sure how much we're going to have access to when they do launch it, and whether or not it's even worthwhile doing it. But I hope for a short beta. If there's 2 months of beta, I just think that's a real slog.
Yeah.
That is completely correct. Like if I have to grind for gear and heroics twice, I think that's going to be horrid. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why would I want to do that? Let me get my well, even worse, let me get my reputations to revered so I can farm heroics in beta for Blizzard.
oh
I
god.
mean, they might just give I mean, who knows? They might just give level 70s and they want us to try heroics. They'll just let us into all of them. But I'm thinking, we're just we're we're still just at this first point. Hopefully this means, how long was the original alpha, Bob, did you say?
1 month.
So I hope this is a month. I hope at most we have a month of beta, and then I hope at most we have a month of pre-patch. So we're talking like 3 months from now. Yeah, I mean June, July is probably where my head's at. If we had to say June, July, I still want an end of May. Personally, I still want that, but whether or not it's reasonable, I thought beta would be out by now. So I kind
Yeah.
of am pushing my guess back to June, July.
I'm still hoping for May. I could see July, but we'll just have to see. I mean, no one really knows at the moment. We have the leaks that we heard, but I mean, those were a while ago. We haven't heard anything since. So we'll just have to see. But in other news, so I don't know about this. So there was a survey sent out, supposedly another one of those surveys. Boy, like just the wording of the questions and the information provided just really, I don't know, just sounds weird. So let me cover it. So classic era servers, some of the things that they said are going to be the smaller servers will be combined into a server group that allows players within the same server group to see each other. Now, if they're talking like they merge on slow times and you see people from other servers, then that sounds a lot like retail. I hope this is just they merge forever and you can just always see their tag, that they're Faralina or they're white main. Because if this is like one of those things that they have in retail, then I think that's bad. But
I think
then
they're just, if this is true, I think they're just anticipating that there won't be as many active players and they can't necessarily base it off of the server population. And nobody wants to walk around a desolate Stranglethorn Vale. I mean, I would love
they
that.
have to
Ooh,
do
that's
this.
an ugly
We were
thing,
talking
though.
about this before. I was under the impression that there were only going to be a few classic era servers, and they weren't just pushing every server to a classic version, because that would be the most that'd be the most brain
Idiotic.
dead thing to do
Yeah.
possible. Like, here's the 20 active players on the server now. Like,
Have fun.
some servers right now only have one active raid team on a faction, and then we're gonna
Yeah,
split
but
that into two
what
groups.
what I'm trying to
Like-
point out. Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Naismith.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, what percentage of the player base do you think, once TBC comes out, is even gonna stay like active with their classic character? Is it more than 10%? I
No.
don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's
it-
what I'm
it-
saying. I think a lot of
like-
people will copy, but I
Yeah,
don't think there will be that many active players, which will just inflate the server numbers without actually having activity on the server.
Unless they do what else the survey has to say. So the survey has more than just
Well, but
combining
yeah,
servers.
but so basically, all I was saying was that I think it needs to be a forever merge where they're always on the same server, and it doesn't just at high population times split them apart, because that basically just segregates the servers just like they are in retail. But the other changes, I'll read them off real quick and we can talk about them. These servers will not unlock the Burning Crusade expansion. These servers may include minor or major changes to gameplay that would make them different from the experience in the original World of Warcraft. So maybe like arena, maybe like dual spec.
is that a backdoor to Classic Plus?
I
It
think
is.
so.
It is. I think that they're talking about Classic Plus in this, especially with some of the other questions that they ask. I think they're legitimately surveying whether or not people want Classic Plus to happen on Classic era servers, which now it makes sense to me why I would copy my character over. It's
Yeah.
to try out Karazhan, but level 60 Karazhan. Whatever they end up doing for that.
The Scarlet Monastery raid,
Yeah, the Scarlet Monastery raid, exactly.
or the Scarlet Crusade raid? Whatever.
Yeah, Scarlet Crusade raid. Yeah, I mean that does seem to be what they're implying. It may also be stuff like balance changes or bug fixes and stuff like that.
I
Who
thought
knows?
they said that they would not unlock the Burning Crusade expansion.
Yeah, this isn't new info. This is just they're just explaining
No,
what those
yeah.
servers are like.
But what she's saying is the Burning Crusade will not unlock, but that doesn't mean they won't retune other raid instances later on in the game and just put them, like Karazhan is one that you could put in Classic and a Classic Plus because it exists in the Classic world. Like the entrance to it is there right now. So they could put that in, but they couldn't put in, Sunwell. You see what I'm
Caverns
saying?
of Time is there.
Caverns of Time is there too. Yeah, they could do a lot of different things. But we're gonna go into some more of the questions. But Yip, do you wanna like read off the Burning Crusade Classic servers?
Yeah. So what they put for the Burning Crusade Classic servers is these are the current WoW Classic servers that will progress into Burning Crusade content. Your current server name will be maintained. If you played on ATS in WoW Classic, your server will be ATS in Burning Crusade Classic. These servers have progressive content patch releases similar to the original release of Burning Crusade. So that's obviously the phases. And then these servers will have minimal changes to bug fixes and provide a smooth gameplay experience, but will create a very similar experience to the original Burning Crusade. So I think I think with this sort of difference between the two, I think that this, if depending on the survey results, I guess, it sounds like they forever do not want to really mess with Classic too much. Something that I had talked about when we were leading into TBC was like I'd be okay with some balance changes if they want to make patches where they might change up the meta so that there are certain phases where other classes that weren't originally powerful in the Burning Crusade, if they wanted to do that, I wouldn't care that much, just because we saw how Classic went, where there were some classes that just were, or some specs in classes that were just unplayable the whole time. I'm sort of over the no changes thing, but it sounds like here they're pretty much they want to separate these sort of experiences where Burning Crusade is for sure going to be a similar Burning Crusade experience, and it's going to have minimal changes no matter what.
Yeah, and I think I think they're kind of like set into the Crusade. We'll go through the last questions
Yeah.
here, but it seems like they're trying to kind of figure out what the hell to do with uh the like
classic
classic
era
era
stuff.
servers. Do you have any thoughts before we move on, Naismith?
No, you guys have covered pretty much my thoughts on this. Like I am also completely over the no changes like movement. Like
Yeah.
this is like you needed to change several things for Burning Crusade to be like good, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
definitely.
I think most people are. You kind of get like it's because we're so deep into this game. We just want to play a game that's good too. It can't just rely on being the same. It needs to also just be independently good.
Yeah, and this just does seem definitely weird. This whole thing. So then they have like an actual survey, and you could do very negative, neutral, slightly positive, very positive, and they say classic era servers allow you to interact with players from other servers within the server group. And I just feel like they need to clarify that because I truly feel that that needs to be combined for good. Period. Like there's no time where you're not gonna see them. Like maybe they're on a different layer. I'm cool. I'm cool with that too. Layering, I'm okay with. Server grouping, and sometimes seeing people from other servers, I'm not cool with.
I mean,
Let
it
me ask.
says allows you to interact with players from other servers within your server group. So to me, this sounds like they have 3 or 4 servers that are in a group that all occupy the same space.
But I don't understand the difference.
To me,
Can I question Bob here about what the difference is to him? If there's layers and multiple server groups compared to not always seeing the same people, I don't see how there's a functional difference between those two things.
Okay, so basically layers, you're always on the same server. Trade chat is always the same people. General chat, even if you're on different layers, is the same people. I like that. I like knowing the people that are on the server, having enemies, having, you know, like having that type of community, like having a white main Discord server where we get called out by people we kill on fight, in the fight main channel, like those types of fun interactions. I don't want it to be like retail is, where just sometimes you see people from other servers. Like I don't really like that way, and maybe they could find somewhere in between.
I think functionally the same. I think they'll just end up functionally the same when you're talking about the size of these servers, because like retail is very different now than classic. Like I don't see a scenario where you're just not like it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be acceptable to you either way. Like I don't think it's just gonna be random people popping in and out no matter what. At worst, it'll just feel like different layers. Like I don't think it would
I mean,
functionally be that different. I think with stuff like the auction house and things like that, those sort of things are questions that need to be asked. Like, are the auction house linked or are they still
yes,
separate? Because those are
exactly.
very
Those types of
big.
things. I
Yeah,
Can
just
we
those
want
not get into
everything
can we
linked.
not get into the linked auction house discussion again?
that's a
This is
different. That's
just
totally.
down a rabbit
well,
hole.
But Naismith, what were you saying?
well, I was just gonna say like this, like the idea that we might have to have like multiple servers grouped together, that just screams to me that they are nervous about like actually the population they're gonna have for like persistent WoW classic servers. And I don't like if that's something they're that worried about, is it worth the money to have all those like just combine everyone into as few servers as possible? Like
That's what
Yeah,
I
I
thought.
think
Yeah.
that's the answer. And maybe that's what they're trying to get from this is like if you have a server group, will that upset you that it's not just the same people? But I think they're asking the wrong question. Like,
They
if
are.
there's nobody on your server, then you don't want to be on that server. So you want something different, right? So
yeah.
I don't know what good information they could possibly get from this question, but
I think what they're
Yeah.
trying to do is merge servers and let people keep their names. But I think they're saying it wrong. Like, they should just say you get a badge or a title, and that's your Farallina Asmongold, and then there's Whitemane Asmongold. Like I mean, I
Yeah.
think
I
that's
think
what they're trying to
that's the
do.
way they would have to do it. Like they have to do it where they're basically on your server. The auction house has to be the same if they want it to be like a consistent gameplay experience, because you can't have like a tiny server where things aren't worth a lot of money, and now all of a sudden you're competing over resources that these bigger servers are also competing with you for out in the world. It makes zero sense. Economies can't work that way.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I assume most people are going to say negative to this. Like classic players, typically, I think are going to feel negative about players from other servers being on their
We,
server. I
we
think it makes
ha-
more sense to just force them together.
half of the like appeal of classic is the communities of the servers, and just throwing a couple thousand more people together, like that's not what people really like. Like
Yeah.
we like trash talking each other in trade chat. Like all of a sudden we have new people that we have to talk to. I don't want to meet new people.
Right.
I haven't made a new friend in a decade. Like
Yeah, and it's a lot different than like we had these periods of Whitemane, because Whitemane was used to be like 70-30 Horde favored, and then we just kept having like raiding guilds transfer over into Whitemane until we were like
Yeah,
50-50.
they were getting off of Scarum and
Yeah, like
selling.
like guilds coming from, yeah, basically. But like it was fun. It's fun to have like 40 to 50 new players come in at once. And it's like, welcome to our server, idiots. Haha. Like, whatever we want to. But when it's like, oh, we're all on a server that doesn't feel like our own anymore. Like you haven't come join our community. We've all been forced together into like some new community we're not in, and we have to try to make that work. And I think that is very uncomfortable. But at the
But
same time,
if they move them and they keep the title with, Farolina and stuff, it could create some fun interactions where like, oh, you're a Farolina guy.
but who are
Okay.
these classic ever server players? Like that's the problem. Is I want to have this conversation if they talk about doing this on Burning Crusade. Like I want to dive deep into the minutia of like, we can't have this. We need the auction house this. But this is the classic era servers. Who cares? like
Yeah.
like
I'm
the
so
premise.
over
Yeah, I'm
classic.
kind of
Like
in
my
that same boat.
motivation to even consider playing a classic era server is just not even there.
But it's like, how many people are on here? Who is this catering to? It's like the whole thing is just confusing because I'm not
I
sure
think
what the point is.
well, I think it's catering to all of us in the content creation community saying that. Why did they make classic era servers? Because the next question is, classic era servers will not progress into the Burning Crusade and be locked into the end of WoW Classic forever. And people talked about maybe they could, transfer over later and stuff like that. Like, but that seems like a weird question too.
Who
This
also wants to be locked in at the end of WoW Classic forever?
I don't know.
I don't
That's
know.
where I'm at.
I think what this is they are Blizzard is trying to make sure that there's never really another big private server community for like vanilla WoW.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
And
trying to hit all bases.
like they're trying to, because that was a huge like pile of money that they just let sit and other people get for like
Yeah.
what, 5 years, like the last 5 years, 6 years, when private servers really took off. Like
Yeah.
that's like, so
Yeah.
I think they're trying to have their cake and eat it too here, where they want to like keep all those private server players, but they also want to say, oh, there's new stuff, so people come back and play this anyway. It's
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the vaguity of these questions, it feels like they don't know what they want to do with classic era servers yet.
Right.
Like, first of all, classic era server, the whole point is that it will not unlock the Burning Crusade. And then the second
Right.
question is, do you want it to unlock the Burning Crusade though? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what you guys want, which honestly, this seems very early, like a very early survey. I kind of appreciate them doing surveys rather than just like guessing this stuff altogether. I do like that they're sending surveys for this sort of thing. But okay, so they have the Burning Crusade question, and they say may include new content that differ from the experience in the original WoW. I think that's the biggest question here. It's
Classic
basically
Plus.
asking, it's asking if you want Classic Era Service to go into Classic Plus, which I was a huge advocate for Classic Plus before the Burning Crusade got announced.
Same.
And by announced, I mean like even hinted at. Like once I started sending out surveys about the Burning Crusade, I was like, all right, never mind. We're just going to the Burning Crusade. That's fine too. But they can't have both. They're
Yeah,
not
dude.
gonna.
I was totally like, I want Classic Plus, but then I was like, wait, but I could get Burning Crusade.
Yeah, which is Classic Plus.
Yeah, can
It
we
really
just have
is.
that?
Yeah.
TBC is polished vanilla. Like it's
I think
It's-
when
it-
we get to Wrath, we go to Wrath Plus. right? Don't go past Wrath. We don't go into Kato. We go like the A route instead of the B route.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think we just start over. We time travel back to classic, unfortunately,
Gonna go
after
back in
Wrath.
time.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. I don't know. My opinion. This is like so off topic. My opinion's changed. I can see them going all the way to Mop now. I used to not feel this way. But I could see them going all the way to Mop.
I could
But
see them going, but not me going.
what do you guys think though? So the question is, if you had to answer this survey, do you feel positive or negative about the fact that they might include new content in classic era servers?
If they
I
include new content in Classic Era their servers, I think they'll make more money because more people will copy their character just to experience that new content if the character copy charges money. Well, it does. Yeah.
yeah, the clone, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
the cloning. Yeah, I think I would go back if it's if it's new content, just because I want to say I've done
Just
it
to do
all.
it.
But yeah, but like I enjoy TBC so much more than I enjoy classic that I don't think I would spend a significant amount of time back in classic,
Yeah.
even if there's new.
But you'd pay
Uh,
$25 to clone your character.
God, they
I
have me over a barrel, don't they?
I like felt this way with retail. I thought retail was actually so Shadowlands specifically was a really good expansion. It was a lot of fun the first few weeks that I was playing it, but then you sit down and realize I'm just playing two MMOs. Who has time to play two MMOs? Like no one would do that. If you have more time, you put more time into the one MMO you're playing. No one just
Yeah.
plays two of them. And having Classic Plus, which I also am interested in, at the same time as like the Burning Crusade, like I feel negatively about that because I'm gonna want to like I want either or. I don't want both to be happening at the same time. Where it's like, oh, there's a new raid in Classic Plus, like we got to go do that now too.
Well, and then the next question is, classic era servers may include quality of life changes that differ from the experience in original WoW, and I think this is like dual spec, but I mean the time for dual spec in classic WoW is over. It's
Of
over.
course, Bobby thinks this is dual spec.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
I
dual
mean
spec.
now we have
I think
TBC
I think
and
that's
we have
LFR.
okay, so go ahead.
I was just saying, if they're going to do a convenience of life thing, I think that's going to be LFR or the looking for group,
Yeah.
dungeon mechanic.
What? What?
That makes way more sense than dual spec.
Wait, okay, but you don't mean like the automated looking for group.
Oh yeah, I think it would be the automated.
Oh
looking for
my
group
god,
one.
the thing that killed WoW?
Definitely
No.
didn't kill WoW.
No, but I do think
I
that
mean, it came
the
out in Wrath, and
classic,
that's when WoW started to die.
the classic enthusiasts, though, the people that want to replay classic WoW over and over again, I think are very against the LFR.
I don't.
Oh, very much. Yeah, I would agree with that. They're against it. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure they're against it. At the same time, if I'm some psycho who wants to keep running Ubers for the next year again, can we just teleport into Ubers, dude? I'm so sick of making that run to Blackrock Mountain. Like, how much time? Here's the thing. I'm cool with playing vanilla for a certain period of time, but there are a lot of time wasters in the game that if I'm going to be playing classic for 5 years, I'd rather we just have the quality of life that's going to stop wasting my time. Flight paths that take 10 minutes to get somewhere versus in retail, they take like 2 minutes to get somewhere. At some point, you got to say,
That's
like, how
the
much time am I
problem.
wasting?
That's the
Why is it a
problem.
problem, though?
'Cause
Like, I understand. I didn't want that for the year and a half that I'm playing Classic. But if I'm going to be playing Classic for like 10 years, adding up all this time together, I just make the flight paths faster, make the connections better.
But I
Like,
mean,
I
that's
don't care
what
about that
makes
stuff
it.
anymore.
That's what makes it epic. And basically, if you take that out, that's what kills the thing. I mean, retail now, you don't have to leave the main city.
Oh, so let me just make sure I get this straight. The reason retail isn't good and the reason classic is good is because flight paths take 20 minutes.
No.
Just so we're on the same
No,
page.
the reason
I could-
retail isn't my game, I
100%.
didn't say isn't good. The reason retail isn't my game is because you stand in a main city and you warp to every place. It's not an MMO. It's a game like Overwatch where you queue for different game modes. Like that's what it is. It's not an MMO.
I can understand. I think what Bob's saying, like the having the 10-minute flight points or flight paths does actually make the world feel huge and epic in a way that like the retail really doesn't. because he's right. You do stand in the city a lot, but I'm also of the same mind that Jesus Christ, flying from the Undercity down to the goddamn Black Rock Mountain just like angers me at this point.
Now,
Like,
I mean, I would be completely fine with having flying mounts in classic era servers.
What?
I'm okay.
So,
I'm
okay.
okay.
So,
I'm okay with that. I just
the
don't want to
map,
be
the
in
map,
this main city, and I
the
don't want to
map
lose
is not.
talents.
The map is not going to work if you have a flying mount. There are so
Yeah, they'd have to
like
switch it to cataclysms.
Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor are literally held together with like duct tape and spit. Like
Yeah,
if
I
you
mean,
put a flying mount up there,
they'd have to use cataclysm because that's where they made it able to fly through there.
yeah.
okay, so this episode is not supposed to be all about this. So I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
gonna
Let's-
I'm gonna
Let's
put a
move
pin.
on.
I'm gonna put a pin on the fact that Bob was not okay with shorter flight paths, but okay with flying mounts in classic. Boop. We're gonna put a pin on that for another time.
I do like flying mounts. Like I just like them. I'm sorry. Don't at me.
Anyway, here's where classic era servers are set to WoW Classic. Am
That's
I
the last
confused about the question? I'm confused
Everyone's
about what this
confused about the
question means.
question. Everyone is. It's like, yeah, they're classic WoW servers, right?
I think that this is asking us if we want 3 WoWs now. If we want on the launch, instead of being, like Shadowlands Classic, and then in Classic you'll pick Classic Era. I think it's asking Shadowlands, the Burning Crusade, and then Classic Era or something is what it's going to show, and we're going to have 3 World of Warcrafts. I think that's what it's really trying to ask. I'm not sure.
Well, I think you're right because the next question is how would you feel if classic era servers all allowed for significant changes or new features to be included in the game? Now, this is a separate question from the survey this is like the next page of that survey. These servers could have changes that dramatically change aspects of the game experience and would make it different from the original WoW experience was like. For example, layering for high populations, changes to the PvP honor system, etc.
Can we just point out that saying "for example" and "etc." is redundant? I just want to throw that out there, Blizzard.
That's
True.
why I mean, I'm gonna throw it out
The
there.
preview-
Josh said it, but like he said he was excited about people saying it's fake. I wonder if it's fake.
Wait, is this not real?
I mean,
Nah.
there's been I mean, it's on
It's like,
Wowhead.
did we just spend 45 minutes talking about a topic that is fake news?
I mean, it's on Wowhead. It looks legit, but
Listen, I don't think it's not fake. I just think that it is a specialty to be able to ask people the proper questions, to data gather properly. There's there's like experience design, user experience design, where it's a job where people will learn how people understand information and interact with something. I think that they just had like someone on the classic WoW team build this survey who has no experience in data collection, and they're just like, yeah, well, these are questions like someone will answer. Like, just classic era servers are set to WoW Classic with no additional info. I think it's probably real, right? Because it's on Wowhead and people are saying that people received it from Blizzard, but I'm sure it's just not like
I personally think that this is like there might be only about 2 or 3 questions they actually care about here, and the rest are just like filler, like that are set to WoW Classic. Why is that there? I don't get it.
Yeah, that does not. Nobody knows what that
Like-
question means. So any answers you get from that question, you're gonna have to throw out anyways, because it's just like I have no idea.
well, it did. Okay, I'm going to jump to the last question real quick, just because it's weird too. How do you feel about being able to decide whether your character stays in Classic Era or moves into the Burning Crusade? Didn't we already establish how they're going to do that?
Yeah.
yeah, but it's asking how we feel about it. Honestly, I don't particularly feel that good about it. I don't like that there's like a lot of choice. I don't think players should have choices like that. It's like a pretty I think it's odd
Okay.
to log into your character on pre-patch and you get 2 big buttons that say classic era or TBC and you're like choosing which one to go to. I think
Yeah,
the
but
whole
it's not
experience
like
is bizarre.
See, I disagree. It's not like they're forcing you into one and you never have the choice to go back, right? If you click on either of them, you can pay for a small fee to copy and retract your choice and do the other one.
Am I crazy? Can you not, if you choose classic, can you not copy back to Burning Crusade?
You can, but it takes that
Do they say
snapshot of
that?
your character. Yeah, they did. It takes that snapshot of your character the day you log
Oh,
in
right,
for a
right,
key
right.
patch.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
And
Yeah,
get
so
anything
if
you do doesn't
2
count.
months later you decide to copy to TBC, it doesn't take anything you've done for the last 2 months.
yeah,
Yeah, they
you
should just give
basically
it
get to
free to
go.
everybody.
Well, you basically get to go to one or the other free, and then if you want to do both, you can do whichever one you choose. You can do the
I think
other one for a price.
if they want both, they should just give us both. I think it's crazy that they're asking us what we want to do, and
I
it's just the
disagree.
whole thing.
If they're gonna maintain classic servers for no additional cost to anybody who wants to play them, I think that they should charge a fee.
You're always talking about money, but their 3-person team they had for 2 years while having 4 extra million subscriptions, they haven't given that back to us yet in dev time yet. So I'm not gonna go down that route of like we have to pay to get our
I'm
characters
just being
copied to
realistic.
nonsense.
They're in
I
it for
know.
the money.
But I'm just
Josh
saying
would love
they're
you.
already milking us.
Josh would love you. That's what he's always pointing out is how do they make more money?
Yeah.
It's a business. You can't
True,
just
true.
think they're
All right.
just there to make us happy.
Well, we do need to talk about loot systems, so I'm going to throw this last question out there just to have it out there. Based on the information in the previous questions, which version of Classic Era servers would you be more interested in playing on? Classic Era with no changes. Classic Era with quality of life changes. Classic Era with significant changes. None of these.
Why can't we pick multiple?
ranked choice.
I would do ranked choice for this, but
Yeah.
like
I mean, I want. Sorry, go
I
on.
was just say if it's just up to me, if I have to pick one, it's with significant game changes. That's the only way I would really consider going back.
Same.
I don't really feel like I want to have my classic journey again, personally.
Right, I don't either, but what about significant game changes and quality of life changes?
I feel like the significant game changes must also include quality of life changes.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think it's like tiers of changes.
It's
Um,
almost like this was a poorly written survey.
Yeah, and it's like
That
here's the thing. At this point, I'd rather they didn't do Classic Plus just because of like my own personal time and how I'm gonna try to play both and things like that. But again, if you're gonna have me play Classic Era, I'm only gonna play it with significant changes. I'm not gonna play it with just quality of life changes. So I guess the answer is significant game changes. That's what I originally wanted. If the timing works out, if we're talking about after Watlake or after Wrath, then yeah, we can talk about a classic plus or something. But like right now, when TBC is floating around in my head, like I wish they didn't even like mention classic era. Like, what are you talking about? Get out of here. Give me
Yeah.
TBC.
Well, just to end this whole thing, the reason that I was kind of like thinking maybe this is fake is just because the last one that came out like this, many content creators got the email. I haven't heard one content creator say that they received this email. Everybody's doing content on it based on from someone else, from a third party. So it seems a little weird that no content creators received this. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone has, and I haven't heard them, but I consume a lot of WoW content.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows? It was a pretty small percentage that got it the first time, right? It's only the people who clicked, like, it's only a portion of the people who clicked that they were willing to receive extra emails or whatever.
Yep.
Like, I could see that if they're just doing it statistically, it's not like insane that content creators didn't get it, but it is a little odd.
Yeah, I
that,
mean,
yeah.
and they got it before, and I actually went in and changed that setting, and I didn't
Yeah.
get it again, if that is real.
Well, if they didn't give it to us, then this is
I
fake,
mean,
guys. You heard it
unreal,
here.
unreal. All right, well, let's move into discussion. All right, so we're going to discuss loot systems, and we're having Naismith on to do that, but with every new guest on the show, we always take a little bit of time to get to know you and your background in WoW. So, when did you start playing WoW?
I started playing pretty much when ZG was released originally, back in in vanilla. I went over to a friend's house, and he was like, "Dude, you got to check out this game." And he and his two brothers, all have their laptops out, and they are running Wailing Caverns. And
Oh
I was
my
like, "This is
gosh.
the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen." So I went home. I had just graduated from high school, so I just stopped by Best Buy near me. God rest its soul. That thing is gone now. I
We
picked
still have
up.
2 here that are pretty poppin'.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
you live in the same area. Like
I do.
we got the one on 95th and Overland Park, and then the one on Metcalf. No.
Yeah, no, this is the one on 119th.
All right,
Oh, yeah,
Bob. I
that
don't
one's
know.
fun.
I don't know if we got time for that one.
But yeah.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh God, you really are like right next to me. That's kind of freaky. This is so bizarre. All right. But yeah, so I went home. I went to Best Buy, picked it up, installed it, and I was like, I didn't know what an RP realm was, but I accidentally started on a role playing realm, and I was a orc warrior. I made my way to Orgrimmar, and I'm not joking. An undead priest that was like level 40 just stops, like it comes up right up to me, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And he just goes, "Doth, what knave approaches the gates of Orgrimmar?" And I was just like, "What the fuck is happening?" So
Oh.
I logged out. I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I called my friend. And I was like, "How do I get to play with you guys?" And he was like, "Oh, just get on this server on Art." So I got on a server called Urzen, and I was there from vanilla all the way through Warlords of Draenor, and that's when I've not really played as much retail since then.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You guys everyone disses RP servers, but 40 man guild meetings in character when all 40 of you are just standing there and you're like, "We shall venture into the molten core."
Dude, I
That is such a
wanted.
yip thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna date myself here. I'm a boomer, but like graduating high school for me was Ultima Online, and I wanted to be an RPer, and I like greeted people with "How art thou?" But you were typing it, of course, and yeah.
Yeah.
Then I got killed by a player killer because in Ultima Online it was no joke. Like they could kill you, take all your stuff. Like it was dog eat, dog world, and yeah, that was my role playing time ended there, and I became a PK myself, and then took everybody else's stuff, and never role played again. But I did start out wanting to do the role play thing, so that's funny.
So yeah, that was how I learned about what RP servers were, and I will admit it could probably be fun. Like I've played Dungeons and Dragons enough in my life that it is fun to actually role play, but I don't really combine that with like raiding. Like that seems like if I have to raid in character, that sounds like way too much work for this game.
Yeah, maybe.
Personally.
Oh my
I mean,
god. I
maybe
can't
if
even imagine this happening.
maybe if my first experience was better, but I literally got murdered and lost everything I'd worked for the last 4 hours in Ultima Online. So maybe if that was
Like
better, I would have went on to do more role playing, but instead, no.
like maybe if your tank has to shout out an actual like insult as a taunt every time you're gonna do
It
that,
wasn't.
that
People
could be
didn't go that
hilarious.
far. People didn't go that far.
I
I mean,
fought in your general direction.
yes, I had macros set up so that when my warrior charged, I might say something to them. And yes, when I had the headless horseman helm in TBC, I might have yelled out the little rhyme that he says. Sure, but we didn't go that
Sure.
far. We didn't raid
I
in care.
in Ultima Online, I had a macro set to sing the "I get knocked down, but I get up again. You ain't never gonna get me down." I had that set so I could say it when I came back and killed the person that just killed me.
Oh my god, amazing.
Oh, so
Uh,
did you play vanilla servers?
yeah, I played. I
Or
got to
sorry,
60.
private servers. Sorry, private servers.
I never played vanilla private servers. The only private servers I've ever played on are TBC ones. I
Okay.
played on Vengeance WoW, the Warmain private server, the Sunwell one, and I played a bit on Endless. Not much though, because right when I got to 70 on Endless is when it pretty much was like, hey, it's when all the surveys came out. They're like, hey, are you guys interested in TBC? And I was like, I don't really want to have to redo this in like a year and a half, so I think I'll just stop playing now and I'll just concentrate on my WoW Classic character.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Don't get burned out before the official TBC comes out.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's cool. Like, so we already answered this other one. You are definitely Horde. You've never played
Yeah.
Alliance, right?
I have played. I was actually in a Draenei Hunter on one of my TBC private servers.
You were a space goat. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That hit aura is apparently supposed to be good, but it's
Yeah.
not that useful for hunters since they don't need a whole lot of hit. So
Gotcha.
but yeah, I've pretty much always been in TBC. I pretty much always play a warlock. So it's what I played back in the day, and I'm just trying to relive the glory days of being able to stay up until 4 a.m. farming shit, like because I'm in college and I didn't have any responsibilities.
Right?
So
Yeah, dude.
I'm so glad the content doesn't take as long as it did when we played it in vanilla, because there's no way I could play now.
yeah. I was back in TBC. I was in a pretty serious guild that we raided like 4 nights a week, like 3 to 4 hours. That was a lot of time spent.
It's insane.
Yeah, that was better than us. We were in vanilla, and I mean, we were getting server firsts and server seconds, but I mean that required 5 to 6 days a week, 6 to 8 hours a day, and I mean it was no joke. And it was before YouTube and all of that, so lots of that time wasn't actually playing the game. It was sitting there in Ventrilo and discussing what we could do differently to maybe do the fight better. Like we were literally progressing, and people talk about progressing now, but what you're doing is you're looking at a VOD, and then you're trying to do those things correctly. But these were
Yeah.
things where we were just inventing what you do to beat the boss.
Yeah. When my guild started really progressing through TBC, there really weren't strategies other than like some really random written ones on a website called bosskillers.com. If you remember that one, that
Yep.
was like the website
Weren't they
where
the
you
guys that
tracked
did?
progression.
Yeah, weren't they the
Like,
guys that did boss mods too?
maybe, I'm not sure. Like I remember it because I had to prove I was an officer in my guild so that I could say, hey, I could submit screenshots saying, hey, we've killed this boss, we killed this boss. Like I was the one that I got to say, like I sent in the screenshots when we killed Illidan and like all the Sunwell bosses. So
Nice. All right, well, let's get into loot systems. And since Yip is a officer in our guild and the DKP, guy, we're going to let him run the DKP discussion. So
That's me. I'm the
alright.
DKP guy.
you're the DKP guy. Well, you're the YKP guy too. So
All right. So
it seems right.
DKP stands for Dragon Kill Points, and it's one of the oldest
Really?
versions of loot
Yes.
systems. Yeah. So in the day, what you would do is your whole guild in this is like in any system. Like I don't know what game it was invented in, but they had it in like EverQuest and probably Ultimate Online, things like that as well too. But you'd go with your group of players to go kill a boss, and if you killed that dragon, you got points for doing it, and that's Dragon Kill Points. And then you would use those DKP to spend on the gear that ends up dropping. Sometimes other things as well too. Maybe you can spend some DKP to get, some gold for repairs or things like that. But typically, you show up. Sometimes you might get points for attendance. You might get points for how long you're staying in the raid. I think like modern systems usually aren't going to be like you get 1 DKP for every boss kill that you get. They'll be a little more sophisticated. But the general premise of DKP is you're given an exact currency for the length of time or the amount of bosses that you're killing with your raid, and then you're spending it on gear. The way that we do it is every night, if you stay for the whole raid, you get 6 points. And then we have a blind bid DKP system. So what blind bid means is everybody bids, let's say a piece of gear drops, and everybody just bids what they want to spend on it. So my Amenethil dropped for me the other night. I went all in with all my DKP on it, which is like 52. And then someone else can bid however much they want. They might only want to spend 15 DKP on it. Then that you only ever spend what you are bidding. That's how our system works. And then for
Let me throw something in. You were talking about per boss kill. That was how our original vanilla guild did it. So you actually
yeah,
benefited if you played better in a night because you killed more bosses. You actually got more DKP. So you wouldn't. So that we ran into a problem there where people always wanted to come on the first night because they knew we were going to down a ton of bosses, and then they didn't want to waste time on the next night. But sorry.
the pros and cons. We'll talk about the pros and cons of these systems. But yeah, so the way you actually function in the system, there's a lot of different ways that it works now. Our original way was every item had a set DKP amount. So belts were 25 DKP, a two-hander was 80 DKP, and then you would just spend that, and whoever had the most DKP would win that item. There's also the non-blind bid where people will bid each other up for items. I might have to openly bid how much I want, and then someone else can bid me up, and we'll just have a bidding war back and forth. I think that system's fun, but it's definitely not like it, it makes you more angry at people who are bidding you up, right? Like you can see
that system leads to a ton of drama.
Yeah, that's like drama central. It's like awful.
Right, like
So,
he bid, he doesn't even want it. He's just writing, making me go higher. Yeah.
yeah, so the pros. So let's talk about the pros and cons. The pros of DKP is that everyone is basically rewarded for their effort that not their effort, but their basically attendance. Like at the end of the day, DKP is the amount that you've attended raid, and then you're getting rewarded based on that, which I think is overall pretty reasonable. There are problems that come up with this, which is how much certain items go for. It can end up being lopsided. How much one person might end up getting a lot of gear depending on what gear they need. Like what Bob said, if you're doing it per boss kill, then the night that, we have a Nax night where we kill 12 bosses, and then we have a Nax night where we kill 3 bosses. So more people are interested in coming in that 12 boss night than that 3 boss night if you do it that way. The way we do it is just you earn DKP for that raid night. If you're late, you lose some DKP. If you're only there for half the raids, you don't get the full DKP. And that way, we're just rewarding time that people spend with us. There are kind of a lot of cons, but in our system, I think we worked through a lot of those cons. The blind bid, I think, helps a lot because you just to say how much it's worth to you. You know how much you are going to spend or how much a particular item is worth. My Amenethil was worth all my DKP to me, and someone bid me up. I think intentionally, someone bid me up to make me spend all my DKP, and I was fine with that because I chose to bid that high. I could have not bid that high. I could have bid half my DKP if I wanted. But what I like about our system, where it's blind bid, the best thing is that it's all personal. You know the loot rules going in, so you can't ever get mad. Because if someone has more DKP than you, you don't expect to win that item. You know that it might go for a certain amount. So any like problems you have to do with yourself. You didn't show up for enough raids to get high enough DKP. You can't really be mad if someone bids you up because you don't know who bid you up, and you might think that they just wanted that item. So I like our DKP system, but it is like a pretty old school system. There are definitely problems with it. The biggest problem is that loot does not go to necessarily who deserves loot. It doesn't go to people who get the biggest upgrade. And then you got people who don't know about their own class who might spend a lot of DKP on upgrades that could be better off somewhere else. So as far as gearing up a raid goes, DKP is actually not one of the better systems just because people get the items they want, but the items they want are not always the raid what the raid wants, I think is a good way to put it.
I think one of the biggest things that we come into, sorry, real fast, is the DKP items that can go across classes, right? Because there's certain classes that just don't have very many people, like druids or, at one point paladins or hunters or something, that their items just go for very low because there's only 3 of them. And they all know there's only 3 of them. So even if they don't get it that time, they'll get it the next time, right?
Collusion.
Yeah,
Well,
collusion is the problem. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, not even collusion, just like odds, right? It's like there's 12 priests sometimes, and it's like, okay, well, if I don't get it now, when am I going to get it? But then you get the items that go for across multiple classes, and they all of a sudden have a lot more DKP, not because they didn't get loot, but because their loot was less expensive than classes with more competition.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
care. I mean, Bingo spent like 100 gold on the mace, so at least
I
he's
mean,
low in DKP now.
for our specific system, it really works good. The only problem that you have is basically warrior tanks. Like warrior tanks get most of their gear that they need for tanking for extremely cheap, and then they're able to get those huge DPS bumps, like items, because they have unbelievable amount of But I mean, that's also, I mean, you're doing one of the toughest jobs. So at the same
Yeah,
time, you have to be
I
like,
don't think that's
okay,
true
give it
anymore
to them.
though. See, I agreed with that until probably AQ, because then all of a sudden, like the Warrior 2.5 tokens, you're sharing that across, you're sharing it across specs, and you're also sharing it across classes. And in Nax, all of our gear is shared by someone else, I think almost. There's like a couple of good pieces for tanks, but
Yeah.
there's like I think every other, like the tier pieces, the weapons, the trinkets, pretty much everything we want are also DPS items now, which I think is a problem. But that is an inherent problem where, like, especially if we think about TBC, where tanks aren't wearing DPS items and they're wearing tank specific items. I'm as a warrior tank, we're only gonna have one other like plate tank in there who might be a paladin picking up pieces. I'm gonna get everything for super cheap, and now I can get like a two-hander for PvP, or I can get like a PvP item away from a
I mean,
PvEer
it's
with my
kind of,
DKP.
yeah, it's kind of like a tank tax, but we have taken the floor because, and we won't do this with the rest of them, but like this is our system, but like
You,
Naismith, let us know what
you
your
guys are
thoughts
experts
are.
on this. You guys are experts on this. I haven't had a strict DKP system like this since like half of my TBC experience. Now the thing about DKP is the most equitable like reward system for people that have put in effort. Like pretty much
Right.
every other system, every other loot system is designed to make sure that usually the people that get the loot are the ones that can benefit the most from it.
Your pumpers
And
and stuff like that.
yeah, like it's like hoarding DKP was like the strategy that most people went with if they want an item. Like in TBC, when we downed Illidan, we had 4 warlocks, and all of us, hoarded DKP just so we could get the Skull of Gul'dan. The thing
Which
is,
means you weren't getting other upgrades at the same
yes,
time.
you prioritize one thing at the sacrifice of everything else, and you are hurting your raid when you do that. Usually, like especially if you are a healer and you're holding out for that new healing weapon that drops off a boss.
Or the
You
worst,
like
a tank.
Yeah, you are holding out for something that might not drop for you for a long time, and you're just passing on stuff that if you took like the 3 other things you passed on over and over, it might actually be a better upgrade at that point.
Yeah, I will
It's
say we had to modify our system so that now we have a 5% weekly decay of DKP,
Mhm.
and between raid tiers we have like a 30% cut of DKP because we don't want people hoarding. Now you're losing DKP even if you're not spending because of a weekly decay, because we don't want people specifically hoarding. So you're absolutely right that that is actually a huge problem. I'm worried about that come TBC especially. But in our system, luckily, it has worked out reasonably well. And what's good with our system too is it benefits new players. The problem with DKP is recruiting new players when DKP is already established ends up being really, really difficult because they're like, well, how am I going to get any items? Everyone else already has DKP and I don't. But with our system, because people are not sure how much they'll end up spending for minor upgrades, people don't end up spending a ton typically, so a new person could come in and get like a full set of gear of like decent items really quickly while everyone else is trying to save for that weapon or something like that. So
Well,
there,
and
it
I'm
definitely
just
helps that
really
way.
bad at saving.
Our
yeah, well, I mean,
our solution for that back in the day was your loot. You don't get any loot while you're a trial. The second you're a raider, you automatically get a set amount of DKP that puts you in the middle tier of like
Yeah, we
people that
do.
have it.
We have like a 2-week loot probation. So by the time that's over, they're like forced to have 24 DKP just because that's like what they earned in
That
that
makes
time.
sense.
And 24 DKP, Gressel went for 31 DKP in our in our rate. So like 24 DKP, like a new person could get some insane item, which is pretty intense, I think.
well, and see, Yip has always talked about my gearing process throughout the entirety of Classic WoW. I always go for weapons late, and I'm, one of the few warriors in our guild that doesn't have Nax weapons. Like I'm still using CTS and Maladath, but I still, on patchwork, for instance, last week, was the top warrior, the top melee DPS in our group. And that's because I've taken those other items. I think people kind of overestimate how much the weapons are actually going to do because I'm topping the charts in our guild without those weapons because I've went ahead and taken the other items.
Generally, weapons and trinkets are going to be your biggest DPS boosts if you get the right ones.
Definitely.
But
Like
but
like
but
I
you
like
shouldn't.
I probably would have hit 1.3 or 1.4 on this last patch, but I didn't. Like I hit 1.2, but it was still higher because the rest of my items are BIS, and so it helps the raid more if I go ahead and take those other items and let other people get the weapons. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I agree. Like people overestimate the value of weapons, like just a little bit, and a lot of that's because they look fucking cool. Like
Yeah,
that's
they
what you
do.
want.
Yeah. I mean it just feels cool to have the weapon.
Like I love my what is I love my Maladath. I love that sword. It's so dumb looking. Like if you
Yeah.
look at it closely, but it's an awesome sword to have. But I don't get to use it anymore. I keep it equipped most of the time when I'm not actually raiding.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like there's many, non KT weapons that still beat it now, you know what I mean?
Oh
Especially
yeah.
if you're human. If you're not
You know,
human, it's pretty freaking amazing.
there is one last way DKP sometimes works. I haven't experienced this at all in Classic. I'm kind of interested to see how it would actually play out because I haven't seen it play out since I was like a child. Where it's like I don't know if I think there's a system called zero sum. I don't think it's this though, but it's like a zero sum DKP where there's only the same amount of DKP in the guild at any point in time. And then when someone spends DKP on an item, then that DKP is given
Just
out to
is
everybody else.
just
So
dispersed to everybody,
distributed. So
yeah.
we'll talk more about GDKP later, but it works just like a GDKP. But you're doing it with internal DKP. So it's not just what bosses you've killed to earn DKP. It's okay, a Maladath drops in BWL. Now someone's spending all their DKP, which means I'm getting a lot more. The problem, I think, I don't know the functional problems with that. I would assume hoarding in that is even more of a nightmare though, because now no one's getting. You're like, if you hoard 200 DKP, that's 200 DKP no one else has access to until you get an item. But I don't know how it plays out, but that is something that we used in vanilla. Uh, I don't know if I liked it or not, but
Yeah.
I've never actually heard of that.
Yeah,
But
I actually left it out of our list just because it's kind of bizarre. It works if people spend. Like it works if
yeah.
people spend, basically. I mean,
Hmm.
that's probably what derived
yeah.
GDKPs. But
I mean, it makes
let's
you. Yeah, I mean, like a GDKP though, you cheer. Okay, a Maladath drops and I can't afford it. I'm still happy because if someone spends a huge amount of DKP, I'm rewarded for that still. So like, you're happy for other people. I think it helps with the loot drama a little bit because
Mm.
you're getting a portion of that cut. Basically, someone's getting an item and you're getting rewarded for it.
all right, well, let's move on to a system that was pretty popular in TBC and Wrath, and that's EPGP. That's effort points and gear points. So this basically this is what Melani's guild used in Wrath, and it's kind of neat in that it really kind of creates a round robin system for people, where people are like, the gear is really kind of round robining, and the reason is because you get effort points by coming to raids, but then anytime you get gear, your gear points go up. And your ratio is what you actually win gear with. So you always divide your effort points by your gear points. And therefore, that number that's divided from that becomes your basic, like, your roll. And so if you have 300 effort points and 300 gear points, like, these actually grow the entire time. Like, they never change. Like, your gear points are always the same. So if you're a new person, you'll be at 0-0. Or if you're someone who's been in the raid for the entire time, you might be 33,000 to 38,000. Like, it never changes, but the ratio is always about the same number. And so
Yeah, you don't use gear points to get an item.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just- yeah.
Yeah, and so so you can see how long someone's been in the guild, which is kind of cool, and then, like, you always know you're gonna be on the list for a next item, and you can hoard it a little bit, but it's definitely not as good as hoarding in a DKP guild. And so I hope I explained that good. But Naismith,
Well, the
you
important thing,
said you
gear
did it,
points
right? Oh, sorry.
gear points are based on incremental improvements too, right? You have, I think most work with, like, you have a minor upgrade and a major upgrade at least. So you're
Well,
not
No,
getting the
it's just
same.
a set number on the gear item.
I don't think people do that like that. Am
when
I?
when I used the system back in TBC, because I had insane loot, we had insane guild drama back in TBC. And in fact, it got worse in Wrath when our warlock class leader stole our guild leader's wife in real life. I
What?
I'm not joking. I'll tell that story some other time.
Somebody
Oh my
clip it.
God.
But what happened was, every item was assigned like a gear score. Like
Okay.
so like the mace from Lady Vosh, that's like the really good healing mace. That one had a pretty high gear score because that was a really good weapon until pretty late into like Black Temple. It wasn't as good as like the say boots that drop off of Lurker. Like those had a smaller gear score because it's a smaller upgrade.
Yeah.
So but this was just the add-on that we used for it that tracked it. It was like every 20 minutes we were raiding, you'd get like a little score bump. Every boss you kill, score bump, like stuff like that.
And then
Um,
even, like, contributing to the guild bank up to a certain point each week would like, lots of guilds would give you effort points for that also.
yeah. Well, mine didn't, but I do know there were several that did. Um, it is a lot harder to hoard points that way, especially because there's a decay that's built in. Um, Usually, like, people would get gear pretty regularly with this. No one hoarded too much, but it's another system that the longer you've been in the guild and the more like effort points you have, it is a lot easier to improve your ratio. Like it
Yeah.
does benefit the longer term people.
True,
So
true.
it's
Which makes it hard to recruit.
yeah, which is why if you have a set guild, like a group that's gonna be together and you're confident you're gonna have very limited turnover, I can see it being a system that works for you. If you're on a high turnover guild, I wouldn't use it. But that's just me. Like there are some pretty distinct issues with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it seems
definitely.
like we dabbled with DKP, talking about DKP boosts for, like, contributing to the guild bank, or like DKP boosts if you came with all your world buffs, or if you came with, like, all your consumes. It seems like EPGP is like DKP, but they try to be a little more equitable in those scenarios as well too. So I know
It
you said your guild
basically,
doesn't, but I know a lot of guilds do have like effort points can be some of these external things. Oh, you came full consumed, you get a little bonus to your effort points and things like that. So it seems like an easier way to implement changes like that. I personally never saw the way we do DKP. I've never seen like a real reason EPGP would work better than our
well,
system.
okay, so to point out what helps uh with oh my god, EPGP, sorry. I just like lost the whole acronym. But what helps with that is that you never really get a steal. Like that's the difference. Like you're never going to get your BIS weapon. Like for instance, Zilzag last night would not have gotten that for one DKP. Like he would have had a set price that he got, and it
Yeah.
would have brought his ratio down. And that's the difference in that. So you definitely have to have the right price ranges on the different items. So you have to have a system that actually reads into what the actual best, gearing things are, so that it actually gives you the correct number. But no matter what, you get the onslaught girdle. Like you're getting the onslaught girdle, not for just it basically takes away that whoever gets it first, has to pay out the butt.
I mean,
Everybody
it kind of
pays
takes
the
away
same.
player agency though in that regard too. Then, like with DKP, you have a choice in how you're spending in order to gear
Yeah,
yourself better.
it's
It's
yeah,
almost like a game, but EPGP is more like
yep,
forcing you. Like, oh, do you want the
definitely,
upgrade? Like, here.
definitely.
Yeah.
DKP is more of a mini game, whereas EPGP is definitely more of a system.
Makes sense.
With EPGP, there's never going to be really a surprise about who gets an item. Like,
True. Like you're gonna know that that's dropping,
yeah,
and I'm getting it, or so and so's getting it, and you're just like you're killing the boss. Like I remember in Oldemon, I was those cool swords. I was a rogue. Those cool swords that were gold that looked like something out of Gladiator. Like I needed my offhand forever, and I knew it was going to me whenever we killed that boss, and like I just knew, and so that was kind of cool at the same time, and other people could set their expectations at the same way. They knew it wasn't going to them, but at the same time, you know there's
Yeah.
cons to that too.
We have that in DKP though. I wouldn't say that differs over our DKP system. We know the same thing. Like you knew that Bingo was gonna get the KT mace last night. Like, and if he didn't, it's just because he
Same.
made a mistake
Yeah,
of
because he
like
didn't bid.
not
Yep.
going all in, right? Like, so you definitely have a bit of that, at least in our DKP system. I'm a little biased though. I think our DKP system's pretty, as far as DKP goes, is as good as it
I'm
can get.
pretty I'm pretty happy with ours. But
Yeah.
let's move on to Loot Council. So Naismith, why don't you explain to us what Loot Council is?
all right, a loot council is going to be usually a team of the leadership of a raid or a guild that they decide where each item that drops from a boss or even trash drops go. It's not up to the players. They just say, hey, usually what they'll do is they'll link, say, hey, this is what I would be an upgrade for, to put themselves in contention. Then there's generally a vote between the loot council, and then they decide where stuff goes. It is it can be the most corrupt system in all of WoW, but
Can
it can
also be the
also
best, right?
it's all, if it's not corrupt, it is a great way to get loot to the right people. Because, and like, if you have a good group, people should be rewarded for their like effort with that system. It's not always fun, but uh and there are some alternatives on it. The one that I actually think is the best loot system is actually, it's a modified loot council. It's 3 officers in the raid, and then 2 random people from that are raiders are added, and it can be 2 from any raider. That way, when everyone goes down to vote, people can plead their like they'll plead the case, um, and this way it's not just like orders from on high. Like people can actually tell, hey, this is what they're thinking. This is why it's going here. This is why I voted this way. Someone voted this way. it gets rid of a lot of the backbiting and drama that is associated with loot councils.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I
just the
wanted
officers are in a room deciding who they like best.
Exactly.
yeah,
Like,
I wanted when we talked about going to Loot Council for AQ, I wanted if we were ever going Loot Council to make sure that there were like rotating normal people on the Loot Council at least, so
yeah,
that because like you don't as an officer, like you don't always see everything going on. Like not everyone is 100% in tune with the raid. Like sometimes, okay, the best DPS you had in BWL now it's AQ, and you might still be thinking they're the best DPS in your raid, even though you can look at the logs and objectively know someone else is like stepping up or pumping more. You have these like biases you're bringing in, and normal players it kind of expands that click, especially with 40 people. So many people can fall through the cracks.
And especially with how our guild is with the officers, like lots of guilds that have a loot council are going to have class officers that can actually know, who's not being put in the hunter group, who's not being done this, who's not getting these extra buffs, so like those things are important.
it really is. Like, loot councils, like, if you have a good group, it's a great system, but you really have to have a good group and maintain a good culture.
Well,
It
and
is-
it makes the officers work so much more. Like they have to know so much more about everything going on in the guild.
Which is a
You-
huge con.
Yeah,
Definitely.
you need to know what is best for certain people and like who doesn't need this, even though it would be a really good upgrade. It's just a better item for someone else. Like,
Or maybe like your best person has a nice item, and this would be like a minor upgrade, and somebody else who's below them but could be really good, you give it to them instead, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's why I was saying there needs to be class officers that actually understand that class like head to toe.
I think about like phase 1, where it would be nice, depending on what gear drops. Like it'd be nice to know, like, okay, this person has a core hound tooth as a warrior. That person's gonna go daggers for now. like we don't want the person who got the core hound tooth and then also switch to swords, and now you have an item that's just like gonna go into their bank when it could be on a rogue or something. So having consistent gearing paths, because a lot of people don't take their own agency. Like in DKP system, we have a problem where people don't take agency into their own gearing path, and they'll take an upgrade and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and now all of a sudden they in BWL they take a CTS even though they have H core leather gloves and a dagger, and it's like, well, that gear got wasted
Yeah,
almost 100%.
that Perdition's blade is no longer helping anyone out.
Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you do that. Like, you have to have a plan, and like you have to make it clear what the plan is to your guild if you want a loot council to work. But like, if you have a good culture, I would suggest trying it out. Like, I would say try it out in like Gruul and Magtheridon's Lair. If that's where you want to try out a loot council, try it there, because there are some really good items that drop there, and you do not want the toxic bitch fight that is Dragon Spine Trophy when it drops. I
Yeah.
have seen guilds disband because of that on private servers.
Well, dude, we
It's
thought the Drake Fang Talisman was going to be like that for our guild, but we had 13 or 14 of them drop.
Yeah. We've had a lot of them. But
I'm
if they don't
really
drop, it becomes a problem.
I'm holding back from some profanity right now to get 14 of those drop.
Yeah, dude, we didn't have the caster one drop much at all, though, if it
Nope,
makes you feel any
here,
better.
yeah.
And if it makes you feel better, I don't have a Drake Fang Talisman either.
Oh, I do, but I'm a tank, so that's they
Yeah.
wanted me to actually do.
I mean,
threat.
Yeah, I passed
though-
it to a tank.
Well, we
Well,
had
that's
to.
good.
He passed it to. Okay, I'm sick of this narrative. He passed on. I told him I gave him a better gearing path. He was gonna take he was gonna take DFT from me as a tank so that he could have it as a warrior DPS, and he like got Maladath the next week
Yep.
because he didn't take it.
Yep.
Okay.
Karma.
So it ended up working out correctly. And by pass, he still ran me out of all my DKP, so it all worked
You
out.
told
just
me
fine.
to.
I did. I didn't want to collude. I just wanted like I just knew that for both of us, our gearing pass would work better this way. But yeah, I mean, Loot Council is I mean, I think the time is a big problem. Like if we were to do Loot Council, it would slow us down a lot compared to DKP, because with DKP you just keep going. The items go out for bid, we know how it works, we have our system in place, and we can keep raiding while items are going out. Whereas in Loot Council, I feel like, okay, it's time to drop down and talk about these items or something, and that's like, that just seems like a whole thing that
It
yeah.
it can be an issue, like especially when it's a big item, a big ticket item. There can be an extended talk about it. In my last successful like raid that was on a private server for TBC, the debate over our second Dragonspine trophy from Gruul was, I think, a 4.5 minute discussion. Granted, the raid was over because it's the end of the
Right.
of that dungeon,
Yeah.
but it was like everyone in raid chat was starting to get a little antsy, and we were just getting a little stir crazy. It's like because it is like you're waiting for someone to like come out and tell you like it's a boy or it's a girl. Like you just want to have it be done. Like
Yeah, I mean,
So I've heard some loot councils like have it set in advance, like prior to the week. Like if any of these items drop, this is who gets it. Is
Yeah,
that something that is like
that
a thing?
that happens. That's just based entirely on the guild's like structure, like from the top down, and how they want to like tell people if you're even eligible for this loot. Like some guilds will have loot councils say, "Hey guys, hunters get priority on this item over any other mail wearer, or warlocks get priority on this over any cloth wearer." You can still put your name in, but it's gonna be a real uphill battle for you to get it. So there's stuff like that can, if you take the time and like have like an entire spreadsheet filled out with all the gear and like who gets advantages on what, that can again lower the drama a bit, because that's, in the end, that's really what you want. Like your loot systems are about, you want to reward the right people, and you want to like get as little of anger as possible, and loot councils can do that. They're just,
Yeah.
sometimes they're not the best.
Right.
Yeah, you can actually cause more anger in these other systems, because we've had a few issues where we didn't fully think everything through. So, for instance, in Nax, we went in with no priorities,
Oh
and we're just
geez.
like whatever, like because we usually have priorities, so we give people an option to come to us and be like, hey, I want this prioed. So for an example of where that went wrong is we had no priority on the gun from Oro, which is really, really good for hunters. We had a new hunter come in, and it's like, do we want our new hunter to have this gun,
come
or do we
on.
want Bob to have it?
That was
And
easy though. You just pulled
and
me into chat and you asked
exactly.
me,
So
and I said, "Give it to Butters."
that was easy. However, last night the Nerubian slave maker dropped, right? And we
Ooh.
were we were sitting there, and a hunter was not the highest DKP. And we're and our loot master was like, "Hey, is this hunter prio?" And we had to quickly on the fly make the decision like, "Yeah, we have to prio this." Even though we didn't talk about it before, we have to give our two hunters who have been like, we have to give it to them, right? So
Yeah.
if someone really wanted
To
that,
be
or if
quite honest, though, like it's just the same as the Oro gun that you pulled me into. I don't think any of the warriors or rogues in our guild would say don't give that to Zilzag. Like I just
yeah,
don't think that
exactly.
would
But
happen.
that's because we got lucky. Like there could be an item we forgot about that could cause a ton of drama. But
True.
we're
Well,
lucky that it's like a hunter item that is a minor, gun upgrade for a warrior or a rogue
did
or something.
did you guys ever hear about the first legendary bow that dropped off of the final kill Jaden in
No.
TBC? It didn't go to a
Uh-uh.
hunter. It went to a rogue because the
I
stats on it are really good.
Well,
I
and
hear
it's
that's
just
meta. I heard that that's meta. That bow is not the best hunter bow in TBC. Is that correct? Do we know?
It depends so much on like the amount of haste that you have, because the big issue that hunters have is the steady shot like spam that they do. If you have too much haste or not enough haste, it's not the bispo. But at the absolute top end, you want the legendary bow.
And
Like,
see,
Makes sense.
like, okay, so this goes back to my whole thing. So when, I had that choice to give, the weapon to Butters or take it, it was basically I was getting the same stats except for 22 attack power. 22 attack power is not much. It's 11 strength, and Butters was going to get a main hand weapon for him. It's the reverse of hunters taking BIS weapons for DPS classes. It's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I think Loot Council, like, it avoids the shocking drama because no one has any agency. Like you don't
Yeah.
know, you're not entitled to any particular piece of gear. So like you don't have that situation where it's like we have had situations where we've had to redo loot rules on the fly because we're like, oh, we didn't think of that. And like if someone's mad about it, like sorry, but like that's just
Yeah, I
what do you
mean,
want
and
from us?
and that's where Loot Council comes into the problem. It's just your officers literally have to do another job and think about everything and then take the consequences for making mistakes. And everybody makes mistakes, no matter how good you are. And so that's like if you're in the top end guilds, I think Loot Council is probably the way to go. If you're the top 1%, I think Loot Council is the way to go.
Well, we've talked to a couple people on the podcast, if I can transition into this. We've talked to Salv Dali and Melderon, who both their guilds have used a different system, which I think Naismith also uses now. Do you want to tell us about Loot List and how that functions and how it compares to like Loot Council?
Loot lists, the way my guild does it is at the start of each like raid, like before we go in there, everyone has a chance to make a list of 6 items that they want priority on over anything. So as a tank, I put the Hungering Cold as my number 1 weapon that I wanted. Hunters can put the Slave Maker, the Nerubian Slave Maker up there. And then you can prioritize whatever gear you want. In theory, it means you can target like the upgrades that you really need. Like say your boots are really bad, so you prioritize boots at like your number 2 or 3 underneath the weapon you want. In practice, it doesn't always work that well because you still have a lot of people that are going to put the same things at the top because everyone wants weapons. In the end, it leads to a lot of roll-offs. Our guild doesn't allow anyone to put trinkets on their list because otherwise everyone would have trinkets. Those are just passed out pretty much through a loot council. Like there's a group of people like when Kiss of the Spider drops. We've had I think 4 or 5 of those, and like it's just 4 like 5 people like say, all right, you warriors, you roll this week. Next week, rogues get to roll. Then it's warriors. So shit like that.
Did you just say you've had 4 or 5 Kiss of the Spiders? I'm sorry to cut you off.
I think we've had 4.
We've killed
We have
that
1.
boss every single week and got 1.
Hold on, guess who has it in our guild?
No,
Bob.
we're
Our
not
Dressel
going
main
to do
tank.
that.
I'm sorry. I'm not talking. I'm just saying. It's not. We have no DPS Kiss of the Spider.
We have all
It's
DPS
definitely
Kiss of the
above.
Spiders. None of the
Yeah.
tanks took it.
Yeah, DKP
Yeah.
works like that sometimes.
But to be fair though, Kiss of the Spider is better for a tank than Gressel is.
It's good. Oh yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's good. It's a good trinket. I mean, it's
Oh
a
my
good
God.
trinket. But
Okay,
haven't-
so what if somebody, and sorry if I'm cutting you off and you were going to
You're
explain
fine.
this, but what if 2 people have the same item prioed at the same level?
well,
Does a
then
loot cancel decide or does
it's
something else
usually
happen?
rolls. We usually roll, but there's also a like attendance component for that goes into the prio, so people that are there more often get prio on stuff.
So it's
Um,
kind of like a soft res
It really
pug
is.
group where you'll get like a +1 to your roll or something, if you're always
But yeah.
there type of deal.
Yeah. Our guild also uses like certain classes get priority on stuff, so it's just a boost to your score. Like, uh, what is we'll just go with Hungry and Cold again. Like tanks with Edge Masters and Sword Rogues got priority on that one. Rogues get priority on Gressel. Stuff like that. So
So wait, are you a warrior tank?
yes, I am a warrior. I'm a Torn warrior tank.
I know you said this earlier. I
We're-
think I
we're-
just focused in on the like warlock aspect of it because I think you like warlock a lot. And then I
Yes.
heard you say you've always played warlock, and then I was like, wait a minute.
where am I?
In classic, I didn't really want to play a warlock. I wanted to change it up, and I wanted to tank because
Got it.
I've tanked like in Cataclysm for just like the last tier, and it was fun. But I wanted to try it again, so I was a warrior tank this time.
We're both
Got
third
it.
tanks, right? We talked about that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and yeah, I
Eh.
think all
Woo!
I think all three of us decided to do warrior after never doing it before.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
been a warrior before.
Same.
I've never had a melee. I've never had a
Oh.
melee class before.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
I was a PvP warrior in TBC, but I never raided or anything. I barely even did dungeons.
Listen, I don't branch out like that. I was a druid in classic, and druids were like innervate bots. And then I
vanilla.
went priest. Well, yeah, in vanilla. And then I went priest in Burning Crusade and what
Hey,
was
priests are awesome.
Wrath.
Burning Crusade.
yeah, I went priest in Burning Crusade and Wrath, but really in Burning Crusade in Wrath, druids got like really, really good. And priests were like still good, but I was just annoyed that druids had gotten really
Yeah,
good
yours
at that
always the
point.
wrong.
Yeah, I always
Really?
chose the wrong one. And
That's
so then when I rerolled on Classic, I just chose priests. I was like, this is the one I want.
The best. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go. I was gonna change.
I was
topic.
just gonna say that a druid in Wrath, the funniest thing I've ever seen was a druid that had the legendary hammer and full tier 1 because it lowered the tranquility cooldown a ton, and he just
Oh my God.
spammed tranquility like every 30 seconds.
That's actually hilarious.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
All right, well, so those are
Well,
like the loot council
wait.
and prio.
I-
Do you have something else?
Well, I want to know. Well, I wanted to talk more about the loot list. So, with the
Okay, go
problems
ahead.
with loot lists, sounds like there's a ton of preparation. So when we talked to Melderon, he told us that like he was trying to get access to like Onslaught's loot list system because they had like algorithms built out to have like the best possible loot list possible. And it kind of seems like you can't just have like a normal guild of like dad gamers put together a loot list to make it function better, right?
No, we have one of our I think our priest class leader. She is wonderful with spreadsheets and algorithms like that, and she has built it out with the help of a lot of other people who have like really gone above and beyond trying to put like the proper prio on gear for certain things. It's a very time consuming process for them, and like they're like, hey, you guys need to get us your loot lists like a week before like we start this raid, before we start progressing, because we don't want to have to deal with like people handing it in late, because we have if you go to like a certain tab on we have a giant spreadsheet for it. You know who's going to get each drop from each boss, or if it's just like an open roll for it.
Yeah.
So do you do this every week or
Well,
just at the beginning?
at the
of a-
beginning, you set it. Once you get your piece of gear, it's like grayed out. You can't replace it. Every month, you have a chance to change the order around or just change something, replace some stuff.
Okay.
It's it does mean you need to do your homework on what you want from the raid. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting there getting nothing because
Our guild would never survive this.
we've been tweaking it since what is it, fucking BWL. So
Does it cause any loot drama at all, or does everyone feel like they had their agency say like it just is what it is?
we know what we're getting. Like it's pretty much
Yeah.
it. The only slight drama we can have, I haven't noticed it, is for trinket drops, and
Yeah,
that's
which
about
is
it.
just going back to
But
Loot Council. And
Yeah.
what
But
about
you have
items that aren't on
5
it?
Kiss of the Spiders, so I don't want to hear it.
If
Four
No, we
nobody,
had.
if nobody
guild-
has an item on a prio list, do you just roll it off?
yeah, like there are certain like certain tier like items that just were prio to certain classes because it's really good for them. Like rogues got tier 3 prio to them pretty quickly. But yeah, what is it that
Oh,
sword that drops from Faralina that we've gotten like 4 or 5 of those as well, and like no one had them on their loot list, so
Yeah.
we just it was a roll for tanks and then anyone else that wanted it.
Makes sense.
So you could combine this with Loot Council or DKP in a sense, right? You could have
Yeah.
like a prio list, and then if multiple people have it listed as number 1 or number 2 or whatever it is, you could have a Loot Council decide who gets that item, or you could have a DKP system decide who gets that item,
Which would
right?
actually make
Yeah.
Loot Council easier on the officers too. You know.
Right. It would put more like work on the raid people to do their job if they want loot, and a little bit less work on the officers.
I think what you'll find, which is interesting when you explore these loot systems, is they all have the same issues and ways to correct for them. They're basically all exactly the same, just done differently. Like DKP, it's loot council, but you've just boiled it down to like attendance and points and stuff. Like you've decided, okay, we don't want to deal with what's better for other people. We just want to deal with people who are consistent in the guild. They can get the items they want, and that's who we're going to loot council it to. Well, why loot council? Let's just have a number system, and that just makes it easier that way. But then it has its own flaws. Like every loot system, like there's only X amount of loot drops. You know, Widow's Remorse or the sword you're talking about. Like even in DKP system, not everyone's going to be super excited about the sword to begin with, so it's not going to go for a lot of DKP or won't have as many gear points in EPGP. So it is like every system's like trying to work around these same issues.
Yeah, it's like it's the problem of allocating scarce resources. Like it's an economics problem in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
Mhm.
Which is kind of an odd thing to say about a video game like WoW, but I mean, it's what it is. Like you need
It's not
to
odd at all. There's a huge economics thing in WoW across the board. You are
Well, yeah,
you are exactly correct.
yeah, it's you want to make it as equitable as possible while still rewarding people that have put in the time. Like if someone is there for every like progression raid and always is fully consumed, you want to reward them just a little bit more than the person that's there only 75% of the time. But you can't say that that person that was there 75% of the time didn't make big contributions as well. So it's
Right.
like all of these systems we've talked about are trying to find ways to make it as fair as possible while eliminating randomness of just rolling for gear. It's
Right. And it takes behavior into account, right? So
Yeah.
it looks at so many aspects. How do we provide reinforcement for good behavior? How do we punish bad behavior? And how do we create this environment that everybody feels like it's fair and even, and the right people are getting what they should be getting? And there's no perfect system, but you have to identify what the culture is that you want and what the individuals that you're playing with are going to respond the best to, right? Because a loot council isn't going to work with everybody. A DKP system isn't going to work with everybody. And you have to know your group of guildies and what they will respond the best to. And I think that's important to know, that there's not a like one size fits all system, in my opinion.
Definitely.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
that's exactly correct.
yeah, I've had to like not yell at people, but have a stern talking to when like someone has to complain about like loot in our DKP system. It's like, listen, there's only been 3 CTS drops. No matter what system we're using, only 3 people could have these swords. So it doesn't matter if you want to complain about like our DKPs, like only 3 of these swords are going out. So we have to find some way to hand them out. So like some people get upset
Yeah.
about the system, but it's like you're not going to get everything you want. unless everything
Right.
you want
Well,
drops a ton.
and I'll bring up Perky's, one of our old guild mates that left to a different system. He left because he was a pumper, like an incredible pumper, and he was not happy that he had to save DKP to buy items. He wanted to be given the item because his skills were higher than everybody else, and he went and got that. Like so.
Hmm.
Like yeah, but I mean, like
But I mean, that's what
that's
fits
the
comment.
deal.
him better. That's what fits him
Definitely,
better, right?
definitely.
Like the rest of our guild, that does not fit.
That's the thing I always tell people. It's like you need to take the time to find the guild that is going to raid the way you want to. Otherwise, you're just going to be unhappy. You'll be burned out. Like
Right.
you
Right.
won't get to the you won't like get the achieve the goals you want in this game,
Well,
which is usually just to kill bosses.
we are running out of time, so I want to hit the last two pieces because we have to be off the channel in 15 minutes. So just keep that up. I'm going to mention it real quickly, but I don't even know if I should mention this one. But it's just basically the group loot system. It's what Asmongold did in his guild, but I don't think this is a good one. It's just you roll
like
if
where
it's
it
main
pops up.
spec, you greed if it's off spec.
Well, hold on. There are a couple systems that people are using in like pugs that I think are worth talking about. I think the normal one is main spec, off spec +1. So a lot of people will see that and not know what that means. But basically,
Yeah.
what that is depending on the rules can vary depending on what you're in, but you're basically allowed to get one item. You'll go in, everyone can roll on an item, but as soon as you win an item, you're no longer in that same pool of people who can roll on another item. So it just makes sure that nobody's getting like a ton of items by rolling. And then you get to choose when you want to roll, what you want to roll on, because you don't want to accidentally win. If you're going to Molten Core to get your Onslaught Girdle, is it worth risking winning like a quick strike ring and then you're going to miss out later? So what they'll do for like Molten Core a lot is they'll reset that +1 after Major Domo so that people don't like leave and stuff like that. So
I was gonna say, how do you get people not to leave after like if
right.
they only need something from one boss and they're like, forget it.
Well, one, you get blacklisted pretty quickly, I think, in Classic.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it's hard, if you start ditching a bunch of pugs, you're going to stop being brought to pugs in general in Classic. But
At least on White Mane.
yeah, the +1 system for like Molten Core always worked that after Major Domo, that +1 goes away so that people can get their rag gear without feeling like they can't get any gear before then. So I think that is a reasonable loot system that you're going to see if you're going into a pug. And then the other one in pugs are the soft res groups where multiple people can res the same item and then you just roll off each other. So it's kind of like loot list. You're
Yeah.
making your loot list. You have hard res items sometimes, then you have soft res where like 3 people are soft resing the same item and you're just rolling against those 3 people who soft resed it. So those are the only, I think, 2 real group loot roll systems that I think people are doing a lot, and it's usually in pugs. I kind of like them. There's some dumb simplicity. Like the biggest problem that group loot has is that the items, you have no agency over items going to the right person, so it doesn't help your raid at all. But I think it probably has the least amount of loot drama because it's like, what do you want? You didn't win the roll. Like,
Yeah, but
like,
I like
Oh
soft
my god,
res
I feel
more
like
than
it has
that,
the
though.
most loot drama though, because it's like, why did you need that? Like,
that's
what are
just
you
baby
doing?
raging. If it's an upgrade and you're allowed to roll on it, like I don't like, that's just baby
No, but
raging.
it's
It's not like
people just
real loot
needing on
drama.
everything though. Like, there's certain people that will need on everything, and
No,
Well, you
but
still
I
have
what
a
will say,
he's
master
talking,
looter. You still have a
hold on,
master looter.
hold on. What he's talking about though isn't people needing on everything. They get locked out after they
oh,
after
see,
they
I'm talking
roll.
about like the little window coming
Yeah,
up, and
you're
I press
talking
No,
something
about
either
no.
fast.
It's not like actual group loot, but it's
Oh,
like that
okay.
type of deal where you're just rolling. Sorry.
This is the type of loot system you're going to see a lot in Karazhan and later in ZA for TBC.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking more about doing it for our DKP guild because I'm thinking about our DKP system and how phase 1 is going to be really weird, where we're going to have more Karazhan groups than we have coming to 25 mans. Do we want to have DKP earned in Karazhan or even spent in Karazhan? And then we go into 25 mans. Not everyone is going to be like allowed to come to those. Can you earn DKP if you're not invited? So like there are some weird things going on come
We used
TBC.
to-
And then somebody
to
gets
earn
too high
DKP.
of DKP, and then do they not get invited because they have DKP higher than
We're not
everybody
doing that.
else?
All right,
No.
Bob.
I will
There-
say we did in vanilla, we had more than 40 people, and we had alternates where you had to be online and ready to come in if needed, and you still earned all your DKP.
That's fair, and I think people use that system. But I was just going to say, oh god damn it, I lost my train of thought.
No.
Oh no, there is a logistical problem switching from Karazhan to the 25 mans in tier 4. It's very tough because you can't just have 3 Karazhan groups because 5 people are going to sit out. It's
Right.
like it's a very weird decision to
You
have.
need to have people that have alts. Like you need to have 5 people
Yeah.
that have alts.
But then who are the 5 people that get stuck in the 5-person ult group?
They're
You
people
spread 'em
that
out.
get to roll on gear that nobody else needs, and then yeah,
Well,
you
you're ignoring
spread
the
them
fact
out.
that most guilds aren't going to run 25 exactly. They're going to run
No,
27, 28. So like,
But
it
you
is
also
going
have
to
to think
be.
about, you want your raid time to still continue to stay the same, right? You don't want people to get used to raiding on a Wednesday or earlier on a Tuesday because that's when their Karazhan group goes, right? Ideally, you have everybody in Discord at the same time running raid in different channels because that's what's going to happen when we get to 25 bands.
My main point was that in ZG right now, we've always slash rolled on what drops in ZG.
For sure.
And
Oh,
that
yeah.
might need to be what happens in Karazhan as well, too, just because it
Yep.
just simplifies that
Yep.
scenario. But it does, we might have to be more stringent about who can take what pieces in Karazhan then, because
Right.
we're
Like, you
we're
do
trying to
it-
open up what people can do right now with DKP.
Yeah, you do it slash roll. You give DKP, and then anybody who's try hard enough to have an alt, you like sprinkle them in. They don't get double DKP, but they still get to roll on the items in Karazhan, and then I think you definitely will have at least 5 people that are try hard enough to have 2 characters worked up and ready to go.
You can take my druid.
Well, that's the slash roll scenario. Does anyone else have any other group loot roll systems that have any relevancy?
No, what I really want to talk about for the end of this is GDKP.
Who wants to talk about GDKP? I'll talk about the origin. I don't
Hold
know
on,
if it's
hold
the
on, hold
origins
on.
of
Though
GDKP.
I want to give Naismith the floor for like how do you see GDKP?
GDKP is the inevitable conclusion of people that know how to play the auction house well and don't really want to take the time to progress in a raid.
Or people that buy gold.
Yeah, that too. However, some of the times, like what was it? The Gressel went for 198,000 gold.
198K.
Yep.
I don't know if someone can
Well,
buy
here-
that much gold and not be banned. Like
Hold
I
on,
just
hold on.
the-
Okay, first off, for any listener, because lots of people that listen might not even know what GDKP is. So GDKP is you're basically using gold. So you go into a raid. Every item at the end of the raid is auctioned off for gold. There are people that bid. You bid the item. Then finally, when the bid stops, somebody pays for an item. At the end of all the items given out, there's there's the entire gold made from from all the items, and then that is distributed to everybody in the raid, even people that buy gear, and then basically it's just a distribution of all the gold made. Some GDKPs take like a 5% tax to the leader, blah blah blah. It just depends on the GDKP, but at the end of the day, everybody gets a like an almost equal portion of the entire money collected. So even if you buy gear, you're still going to get paid out. And so that's what GDKP is. So go ahead, Naismith. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's like it rewards people just for the ability to make money in or buy money in WoW. It is a fun way if you aren't a buyer and you're part of the crew that helps run through to you can make some really good money. I got a fair bit of change when a DFT dropped in BWL I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a pumper, you could just come in and just make money.
I will say though, there is a like zone that this is a good thing for some of our guild that maybe is missing things from MC or BWL or ZG that we're not going to run those bosses consistently, or we're not going to run, you know, ZG every week. And if we do, we just run idle runs. So we're not hitting all the bosses. So if there are items that these people want, it's a good alternative way for them to get them because our guild's not running them. So they might still be part of a guild.
Or it's
And
a
maybe
good
they,
or it's a good way to make cash. Like I could go make 500 to 700 gold on a BWL run as a pumper on my main character
right,
because we don't run BWL every week.
I
right.
think it's
And then
actually
you
a
don't buy
horrible
gold.
way. I think it's a horrible way to get geared, actually. So Kim
Well,
Jong-un in our
yeah.
guild he has a tank that he geared through soft reses, which he is like insanely geared. And if he wanted to buy it, all that gear in a GDKP, we're talking like 75K or some nonsense number like that in order to get those
Oh,
items. It's like impossible to actually get really geared unless you're buying gold. I think like if you want really good items
Okay.
like
I've
DFT,
never done them.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
we had
horrible way to get geared. It's a great way to make money if you're already geared.
or if you have just like a surplus amount of money. So he has gotten some items in GDKPs because he plays the auction house all day, every day. He has thousands of gold. He can say, okay, if I really want this item, then I can spend, 6K on it. But the problem is like a DFT, we had someone in our guild spend 17K on one. 17,000 gold on one, which like I would prefer that our guild kept that money than him getting a TFT. Like as a guild as a whole, buying consumes and stuff, that is so much more helpful there. So it
I
is
know,
kind
you
of a
just be
weird
like,
system.
hey, you give that 17K to the guild bank and we'll just let you have it.
Well, I was gonna say originally, I think that's how these started. And back in the day when we did GDKPs, that's what it was. It was usually like half of a raid that had some content on farm, or you used to have like 25 mans and 10 mans you could do at the same time and stuff. You'd bring a good amount of people who could clear the raid. Then you'd bring on people who were buyers who would bid off each other usually, who could then give money to your guildies or give money to the guild bank as a whole. And I feel like it did start in a way where there were people who don't have a raiding guild or want to get geared and they have a lot of money. Well, how else they can do it? They pay a guild to run them through it. And that's really like the origins of it, right? You're paying people who are good at the game or are very geared in order to pay money to get gear, which is it functionally is still the same. It just ends up
Listen,
looking crazy because of how much gold there is in the economy now.
listen, what it's turned into is a money laundering system.
Well,
So that people buy gold, they put it into the GDKP and it gets dispersed through all those people and
no,
then it's clean, you
Actually,
know?
though, I saw a lot of people talking about that 195 or 198K Gressel. They were talking that that's a good way for a guild because it was like an entire guild. It was like 35 guild people and 5 non-guild people in a
Mm,
GDKP. It
yeah,
seemed like a
laundering
way.
money.
Yeah, it's like the whole guild bought gold together, and now the only account that will get banned is like the one person who bought the Gressel, and then that whole guild gets all the money. I think that's a like
It's a legit theory, guys. Let's be
oh,
real.
geez.
yeah, I
Well,
mean, I don't know
and
how else you could spend 198K on a Gressel, but
and what I've seen in GDKPs is, well, and like I might be spoiled. Like we have a guy named Grapes who is supposed to come on the show at some point or do an interview with us at some point, but he runs the best GDKP services on White Main Alliance period. Like he's amazing. He like literally walks up to a boss, says everything you need to do immediately, everybody does it. Everybody's world buffs in like all the pumpers are world buffed in these DKPs. They go better than raid. Like they go better than most raids, like across the entire server. And they're just easier because you can just cut somebody out. Like if somebody's not pumping, you just cut them out. Like you just don't let them come. Whereas in guilds, you have friendships, you have different things, and you let people come even though they're not pulling their weight. But in these GDKPs, like these are almost the highest end of rating on at least our server.
A GDKP also will often have gold incentives for like the top DPS and things like that. So there is like this sort of race to the top that GDKPs have, where I feel like in a normal raid, if you're talking about just prioritizing your personal benefit of a raid, it's actually a race to the bottom, where every week we're seeing how much we can get away with. How many consumes do I really need this night? Do I really need all the world buffs, or maybe I can just get away with Ani head? So I feel like a guild raid is a race to the bottom. How much money can I save this week? And then
Right.
a GDKP is like, well, if I have to perform to get my cut, I have to do as much as possible. And everyone else is doing as much as possible. They won't bring me back. Like, and then all the
Right.
best buyers go to the really good GDKP. So it is definitely a race to the top that ends up having these really, really strong GDKPs.
Which is another thing we didn't bring up about Loot Council. That's what Melderon talks about. Like
Oh yeah.
everybody shows up with world buffs, because if they don't, that's going to be like
Yeah, Loot
in
Council is
the
good.
the decision.
Yeah, Loot Council is a good way to make people race to the top, because the top people will just get rewarded again and again. So you need to also do that, or you're going to be left behind.
So, do you have a lot of GDKPs on your server, Nay?
We have one guy that we have a GDKP Discord for Stalag. It's been clearing Nax for quite a while.
Yeah,
In fact,
same for our, like, Grapes is basically, he runs them, and he actually doesn't take attacks, which is really cool. But he runs them, and he has he has bis everything on like 3 characters.
Jesus. But yeah, like my guild leader actually, he would go to the GDKPs on an alt, and it was just an easy way for us to get a bunch of frozen runes, because he would just buy the frozen runes at the end, usually with the gold that he got as a share. So
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's actually really smart. I'm kind of wishing we had done that toward the beginning, because frozen runes were kind of expensive for a few weeks. That would have been pretty helpful.
good old Glukes. He's a good guy in YKTV.
But not yeah. So Bob's talking about grapes. So we have a ton of GDKPs that are just run all the time. Those
But
are like some
Grapes
of
is
the higher
probably
up
like
ones.
the
Yeah, he actually got
Grapes is up
banned
here.
recently for I think he was just transferring gold onto another character.
Yep.
And then he got banned for 3 days.
Yeah,
It was auto
yeah,
triggers.
just auto banned.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta love that automatic system.
I mean, look, no one should be trading 50K to another character. It is like it's not what Blizzard's used to. They're not, it doesn't make any, only a GDKP is that normal.
All right, well, guys, I think we've covered it all, dude. Like well, not all. Like there's some, like when I was doing research on this, there's some intricate systems across the board. Like there's a whole bunch, but I think we've covered the main ones, right?
Yeah,
I think
I mean
so.
these are the big important ones. I think honestly of this list, all of them except like just rolling for stuff, I think they can all work. You just have to adapt it to your guild and make sure that everyone is on board. I think that any loot system works as long as everyone agrees to the loot rules before you go into raid. Drama always comes from people assuming all these things, like I was supposed to get this item, even though it doesn't make sense with the loot rules or something. Like it's people wanting more than the loot rules make sense. So if everyone agrees to what the loot rules are, you shouldn't have much drama. Let me put
I
it that
feel
way.
like agrees is a little bit of a no. They don't have to agree. They have to understand what the
Well,
root rules are.
they have to agree, and then coming to raid, you are agreeing to
You're
do.
agreeing, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like opening up this whole like guild talk about, hey, how should we do loot? No, everybody
Right.
has their own opinions. You have to make a decision based on the people in your guild, and then you have to communicate it, listen to feedback, maybe modify it, and then go with it and stick to it. And you can modify it and change it later in the future, but you have to just make a decision. You can't wishy-washy, willy-nilly pick one and then switch to another and then do that. Like, you have to give it a good old college try.
All right. Well, so to end it out, we're going to start with Yip. What is your favorite loot system in a not in our guild, in a perfect world? What is your favorite?
In a perfect world, I think Loot Council is my favorite. I think about 10-man raids or like 10 to 15-man raids. Personal loot came out in retail, so you never really got to experience this. I think when they had dynamic raids, personal loot was out. But when you have a close, tight-knit group of players that you really like raiding with, and everyone sort of agrees, like, if this piece is better for this person, they should have it. Like, when you have that sort of like fostered camaraderie, I think Loot Council is the best. We have a piece, who wants it? It's really good for this person, let's move on. I think that's like my ideal rating scenario. But when you have a lot of people or like a lot of attendance issues or something like that, it doesn't play out in the real world like that usually.
All right, cool. Mel?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I guess my choice of loot system would be different for classic versus classic TBC, because I think a loot system in 40-man raids is much more complicated than a loot system in 25-man raids. So in
Very good
40-man
point.
raids, I do very much love our DKP system with the decay and the blind bids and everything. I think that that has worked the best for us, and I have really enjoyed it, except for the fact that I don't know how to manage my DKP. But I think that in a 25-man raid group, I think some sort of combination between loot list and loot council would be what I would prefer. Now, I don't have any experience with this, so this is just kind of a that be cool type of thing. But I think that that would be the most effective because it's a smaller group. You can manage better. You can get that kind of tight knit community and not have the outliers that you have in a 40-man raid.
Dude, I love this because Naismith, what would your favorite be? Because I think our favorites are going to be 4 different ones.
My favorite would actually be Loot Council, with the rotating like raiders in. The thing is, that would be that for 25 mans. For 10 mans, I think that's a soft res, and then just roll on everything else. Especially in Karazhan, because there's so much gear in Karazhan.
Yeah.
There's so many bosses. Like trying to juggle a DKP and or a Loot Council system in Karazhan would be a nightmare.
Okay. And so for me, EPGP would be my favorite going forward, especially into TBC with like the guild bank and being able to track anybody who actually contributes, because I would love to have extra given to people that farmed for the guild and gave some gems to the guild and gave these different things to the guild off of raid logging, and just being a badass, like I would love to have like that extra contribution to the guild. So I think EPGP is my favorite, and it kind of round robins. So
It
I think
would
this is
also
cool.
allow if people were waiting online for like if we had 27 people on and a couple people had to be online to earn DKP, they could also earn EP. They could also earn extra EP if they're farming mats, right? That's what we used to do,
Yep,
Mm.
I
yep,
think.
yep, definitely. And so, yeah, I think this has been a really cool episode. I think it's like kind of different from a lot of different podcasts, and I've really enjoyed this, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming along with it. We're going to end out the show, though. Do we have an add-on of the week?
Yeah, if you want one.
All right, do it.
This week's add-on of the week is one that I think is a little bit broken, but it still does work. It's a Nauticus Classic, and what it is it times boats and zeppelins and things like that, so that the add-on will actually tell you when boats are going to be arriving and what their schedule is. I think it's better if you have more people having it installed, like in your guild and stuff like that. And I think it can get inaccurate, especially because sometimes like the WoW time and your computer time can end up getting like desynchronized and like weird. So it works like best after you restart your computer. But the idea of this add-on is amazing, and I think it generally works. Nauticus Classic. So like I hate having to sit at a boat and I want to alt tab and I always miss the boat. Or I'll
Always.
sit on the boat and I'll be on the boat like multiple trips back and forth because I'm just not paying attention. So Nauticus Classic, I think it was an add-on back in the day and somebody revamped it for Classic. So it does still work, and I think the more people who have it, the better. And then, well, give it a shot. And if it doesn't work still a little bit, somebody out there fix it up again and relaunch it.
That would actually
Can
be
I-
really cool, because then I could like judge if I'm gonna do like an auction house thing before flying over and not have to
Exactly.
stand there. Sorry, Naismith, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I don't know if you guys have had this add-on yet, but it's one that I find it entertains me. It's called the Crit Commander, and it makes Owen Wilson say "Wow" every time you get a crit.
Wow.
That's on my list. I saw that like on Reddit this week, and I was like, I'm
Oh,
gonna
I'm
put this on
sorry.
my list for no.
No.
It's not. Don't worry. It's not a real list. That's not.
Okay,
But I
okay,
did
yeah.
see that. That's hilarious. I think I need to get that. Wow.
I found that
Wow.
when I was tanking what is Vale in BWL, and like when I pop recklessness
Yes.
for extra threat at like so I can start XQ spamming. It's just go wow 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 wow. It's really
It'll be fun on like Lotheb. Like there's a couple fights that's gonna.
Lothab, that would
Wow.
be insane. That would get
Oh my
annoying.
god. Will you guys remind me next week to talk to you about the TSM auction house, like alchemy? Okay, I'll just tell you now.
Yes. No. We
No,
have
tell us
gone
next
way
week.
too long. We've gone way too long. We have to end it out here. But we will remind you for next week, because
No, you won't.
yeah, I will, because I made 2,000 gold off it this last week. So
I get a
tune
commission of
in.
that.
Yeah, tune in for that next week. But we are ending it now. Okay, so don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. Don't forget to follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to send us your stories, do it to wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join our Discord, you can do that at mash.gg/Discord. Ratings and reviews, we need them. You keep giving them to us, but we keep needing them. So give us more. Thank you. Dude, I'm trying to end this fast. Okay, so
Give us
but
reviews.
I do have to reiterate, please jump in on the $25 gift card challenge for our YouTube giveaway. We need to grow on YouTube, and we need your help for that to happen. So go to youtube.com/mashthosebuttons, like our video, make a comment, make sure you're subscribed, and you'll get an entry into that contest. And, all right, this has been a crazy long episode, but I think it's been good. It's just, there's just, every
Okay,
week there's so much.
Let's go.
Yeah, you keep going. You're still going.
Yeah,
I
You're
know,
right?
but like we started this.
Where can we
Hold
find
on.
you?
Hold on. We started this podcast
This is not a
thinking
reminiscent time.
I'm about to mute you. We started this podcast wanting to do it bi-weekly, because we thought, like, this is an old game. Like, we can't just talk about this game for too long. We need to do every other week. And it was supposed to be an hour every other week, but we have grown and become popular with 2 hours plus every week. That, like, pat yourself on the back right now. Like, we have really made a really cool thing, right?
Yeah, this was yeah. Good job. Anyway, you can find me.
Okay.
Nostalgia over.
All right.
We can have a nostalgic episode when there's nothing to talk about.
I'm gonna cut you dorks out of the audio podcast because you obviously don't
Whatever.
realize like what we have
I just feel like we cut
created
Mel's
here.
segment off. We should cut you off, right? I just feel like
Right.
we have to. It has to be equitable in what we're
Yeah,
cutting
we can't
off.
just let you run the show here. Like,
I
come on,
do
we got
run the
places
show.
to
That's
be.
what I do.
Yeah, but kind of. Yip and I have veto power if we're together, and we're together on this.
All right, fair.
Yeah.
All right, so Yip, where can we find you?
You can find me at Cognitive Pit on Twitter, or come check out my YouTube, youtube.com/cognitivePit. I'm grinding on my paladin. People are coming out of the woodworks now that these videos are coming out.
Nice.
People love grinding like I do. They want to know where to grind at what
That's
levels.
not true.
Come, I swear, come follow my journey on my paladin. I'm making hundreds of gold, and I'm not even close to 40 yet. So it's going to be an exciting journey.
And what is
come
that
check
link?
it out on my YouTube. What?
And what is that link?
youtube.com/cognitivePit.
All right. And then Mel, where can we find you? Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Mel Overwatch. That's it.
Where else? Is that it?
Oh my god! Or
Hey,
you can
I mean
find
we're
me
I
on-
mean we're
you
doing
can
Mel
find me on
impressions,
White
right?
Mane. No, nobody signed up for that. You can find me on White Mane on Melarina. That's MELARINA.
Oh, sorry, we got a little crazy at the end here. Naismith, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us and dealing with our shenanigans. Where can we find you?
Unfortunately, I'm kind of a ghost when it comes to social media. But if you really want to track me down, I'm usually in the Countdown to Class or Crusade Discord. I talk a lot of shit there. Other than that, if you really want to track down, I have a warrior on Stalag. I'm a giant Torn. There's shit ton of us. Just don't be an Alliance player on that server.
Yeah, and and you should definitely check out the Countdown to Classic podcast. Josh is amazing host, and he brings on so many people weekly. And Naismith is on there often, so definitely check it out. It's a really good podcast.
Thank you so much for coming.